All right, we may be a little late, but not too late to start the stream. 9:10 a.m. on the West Coast, 10 afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome to August the 19th, 2023, and welcome to the Krueg Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. Go get the brisket. Go get the brisket chili. Say hi to Damon. Say hi to Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And, of course, we're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, 415-883-3030. And we are also brought to you by New York Style Sausage Company. And thanks to them, the only kind of sausage that I will eat is New York Style Sausage. There you go. And they are the proud sponsor of the Krueg Show as well. Well, it is Saturday morning. We're off and running. Niners go tonight, preseason game number 2. One of my favorite segments of the week is this spot right here, which we've been doing for the last month or so with the coach who joins us from the other side of the country. Coach, good to see you. How you doing today? How's your Saturday?
Man, thanks for having me, Larry. It's good to see you. Feeling a little bit much better than I was the last time we had a show. I'm not as sick as I was before. I'm on the mend, so I'm feeling better.
Yeah, I mean, last time, we had the show and you were really coughing, and then later we checked in with you and you actually had to go, was it ER or go to the urgent care or something?
Yeah, I had to go to the hospital to get checked on. So I didn't have COVID, but I don't know what it was, but it was just a lot of inflammation in my chest. It kind of had me down and out, but I went out and ran with the boy today and woke up early, so I'm feeling good.
Good. Well, let's see. Wait, you ran with your dog today. How is the dog today? How's he doing?
Yeah. He's great.
How's Hannibal?
Nursed me through. It's so good having a dog when you're sick because he didn't leave my side.
Well, here we go. Just for Hannibal. Hannibal, thank you for being there for the coach.
Yeah. Hey, come here, man.
There we go. Studio audience for Hannibal. Way to go, Hannibal. All right. Well, we're off and running. Tonight we get to see the 49ers and the Broncos preseason game number 2. What do you expect to see from Trey Lance today, Coach? What do you expect to see?
Well, depending on when he plays, I expect him to show improvement from his last game. His last game was a rough outing if you just want to look at the net of the performance. Let's talk about it. We want to be able to see Trey Lance take advantage of what he sees throughout progressions. We want to see Trey Lance take care of the ball. We like to see Trey Lance drive the ball downfield when he sees receivers open in areas before defenders get there. We want to see Trey Lance look calm and confident. We want to see Trey Lance look natural, moving throughout the offense. Also, we want to see the good carry over too. So just because he did it once, I'm still going to be looking to see if those mechanics get sloppy along the game, if he gets under pressure. I'm still going to be seeing what his athleticism looks like if he's not paying attention down the field and paying attention to pressure inside of the pocket or taking on sacks. That's something that he did well with. We can't see that this game. So really, Trey Lance's development should take an uptick in this week if he does the things that I talked about. But, that's what I expect to see.
What I want to see is I want to see him dial up the speed of everything that he does a little bit and play with a little bit better internal clock, a little quicker, I want him. The phrase that Kyle likes to throw out is "let it rip." I'd like to see him let it rip a little bit. Now, I charted his last game, all 27 plays, and when I say it charted, I went through and looked at all 27 plays, and what I found, Coach, was it was 20 passes, 7 runs, which already is a heavy pass load. But I'm not blaming anybody. That just is what it is. Of those, so I took the 7 runs out. So basically, you're looking at 20 plays, and what I found was it was 10 good plays, 8 poor plays, and 2 plays that were so poorly blocked in front of him by the O-line that they just had to be like, you
He couldn't
can't.
even get a look.
Yeah, and you can't put that on anybody. It's not on Trey. It's not on
I mean, that's on the
Shanahan.
O-line, is what you're saying.
It's on the O-line. So I said 2 on the O-line, 8 poor plays, 10 good plays, 7 runs in 27 plays. So I've got more good plays than bad plays, but still, obviously, 8 bad plays is not great. But I thought the overwhelming reaction to his play was once again an overreaction. You got to ask yourself, what are we looking at, right? And you and I, we know ball, so we know that you got to have perspective on this thing. 318 pass attempts is what Trey Lance had in college. He's played 8 games in the NFL. He's had 4 starts. He's 56 for 102 with 5 touchdowns and 3 picks. Last year, he fractured the ankle in week 2 and was done for the year. So he had not played since week 2 of last year. And the first 3 drives didn't look good. The Niners got 1 combined yard. They went 3 and out on all 3 drives. But that was the first 9 plays. But if you looked at play 10 through 27, I thought he settled in, did some good things, and looked comfortable. And to me, I think we're going to see more of play 10 to 27 Trey today or against Denver or tonight than we saw in week 1. To me, I'm not excusing it, but to me, what I saw was a combination of rust and extreme nerves from a guy who knows that it all means so much and that is trying to do it all instantly. And I think Steve Young said it best this week when he came out and he said, every throw for Trey at this point, it's like you can see that he knows that it's a referendum on the entire selection. And he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And if he just settles in, relaxes, plays the position, and lets it rip, I think we're going to be like the results. I'm eager to see what he looks like tonight, and I'm not at all really discouraged, like so many were after preseason game number 1.
Well, I think there's a difference between giving concise critique and being reactionary, right? And right. I feel like there's an angst behind the evaluation of Trey Lance. Even if he's bad, you don't find a lot of people simply saying he looked bad today, didn't look good. There seems to be like this heavy-handed over leveraging of how Trey Lance is talked about, specifically when he plays, which hasn't been a lot. I don't want to get into psychoanalyzing Trey because I don't think we necessarily understand just how small of a sample size we've seen from him. He has not played a lot at all. And I feel like to go through all of his reps and look at a carbon copy game. I don't even, in my opinion, I didn't even think Trey played a regular traditional game, even with Las Vegas, right? That wasn't an offense that was being ran. That looked like an offense that was evaluating a quarterback. That's how I interpreted what we did against Las Vegas. I didn't see that offense and say, we're trying to score. We're starting the ball with the run. We're trying to get him settled in. We're going to start throwing him some things that he likes, get him ingratiated into the game, warm him up, get the offensive line together, get them ready get them comfortable with the line of scrimmage and the tempo and the physicality of the game. Let the offensive linemen feel them so we can understand what we're dealing with. Nah, I feel like we just went straight into evaluating the quarterback, right? So even when I watch Trey play, I'm not, fooled into thinking that he's playing like a real traditional game where he's getting a 10-play script slotted out for him to score. I think that Trey is getting the same thing that Sam is getting, the same thing that Brandon is getting, where they're being evaluated. And I feel as though with Trey, I don't know about Sam or Brandon, but if I'm being fair to Kyle, what you could say is, what Kyle's trying to highlight all of the things that Trey struggles with, and he wants to see it he wants good film on things that Trey struggles with. That's the best you could say if you're being fair to Kyle. But as far as him wanting to be perfect on every throw, him being scrutinized on every throw, that's narrative. I don't necessarily think that that's something that Trey has shown us. I want to be able to see him play long enough so he can start giving us real characteristics that we see on the field. Brock played 7 games, and what are the things that we noticed about Brock? All types of things. He reverses out of the back. He reverses out of the pocket when he gets pressure. He always goes to his left instead of his right. You know, like Trey hasn't even played in a consistent base and a consistent period of time for people to even know what his tendencies are. So really, when you see him, it's a pass-fail algorithm already. It's either he's good or he's not. There's nothing tied together to actually see a full menu or a full maturation or a full trajectory, if you will, of what Trey is going to do. Everything with Trey is a one-off, right? So it's hard for me to connect the dots when he played this game, then he played in the first half. He's going to play the next game. He's going to play with 10 reps. So I think that if we're being honest with where we are right now in August, with less than we're less than 3 weeks out, right, Larry?
Yeah. You got this week, next week, and then a week off, and then week 1.
Yeah, if we're being honest, right now we're just keeping Trey because we can't afford to lose any type of viable quarterback who knows our system. So does that mean that Trey is going to be 3? Who knows? Does that mean he's going to be 2? Who knows? But what I'm watching in these games, I'm done looking at these games as if this means anything to Trey Lance's real development, because he's not going to be a starting quarterback here unless somebody gets hurt. So it's not as if Kyle is giving us the best of what Trey does, setting Trey up for success where he can find passes and find concepts that are most advantageous to his skill set. No, Trey is a cog. He's a piece to the puzzle. And his piece right now is trying to figure out whether he's going to be 3 or whether he's going to be 2. Because we've already made our mind up at 1, right? So I'm not looking at Trey as if he's being dealt with an honest broker. Kyle's not trying to push him to be 1. Kyle's not bending the offense to what Trey does best, you know? So I'm just going to look at the offense that Trey runs and look at the skill set and the upside that I see that, quite frankly, a lot of people outside the league can see as well. And, you know, the things that he struggles with, he's going to get better, because that's the one thing about Trey. We've said this before, Larry. I'm sold on the human being. I don't know enough about him as a football player. I don't.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what do you think, if Kyle doesn't scheme to what he does best, what would you say he does best at this point?
Well, throwing outside the numbers, driving the ball in the seam. I think you need to move the launch point and actually get Trey outside the pocket running. You know, being able to hit leveled concepts where he can go high to low, get play action going, get Trey moving. I think that there's a difference between running Trey and moving Trey along the line of scrimmage, moving the launch point and getting him to different areas of the field. That's what I think, some of the things that he's done well thus far. But I don't know. I'm willing to say I don't know. A lot of people aren't willing to say that. I haven't seen enough of the kid, right? All I know is that when he struggles with something, his best plays are right after, right? I know that he's got confidence for days, and all they talk about is his confidence. So this is what I see. Trey Lance is an imperfect vessel. They all are, honestly, all our quarterbacks. But Trey is fighting to either stay on this team or at least have enough value that when he is moved, he can continue his career somewhere else. But I'm not disillusioned at all. Trey Lance's official shot is gone. They're not doing anything for him here, right?
It's not last year was all about Trey. This year is all about Brock. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh yeah, they're not even. I mean, and you know, and you have to give them credit, right? Because Brock played 7 games, right, at the level that he did, and he got hurt his last game, and they lost miserably. And Brock is coming back off of an elbow injury, and he is the unquestioned starter. He did not compete for the first starting job, right? And the 7 games is enough. It's enough. But we have to understand that the entire team bended the knee to Brock being the first start, being the quarterback. But in theory, Larry, I mean, are they going to bend to Brock, or are they just going to say Brock can't get it done either?
Time's going to tell, right?
There you go.
Time's going to tell on that
because
one.
The thing about it is that no matter, this narrative for Trey Lance, that goes with Sam Darnold, that goes with Brock, that goes with any quarterback that comes in this team, right? Ultimately, the offense, you're a human being. You have tendencies. Larry, you love to say, pig in a pickle.
Pig it up, pickle.
Come on. Everybody has their way of doing things. It's human nature. I don't care who you are. And when you get a guy that you're asking to do so much for a team, the least you can do is configure the offense in a way that he best sees fit. So we did it with Trey. It was the Trey time. We ran him. He got hurt. That's cool. Trey's not our guy. There's a lot of people who think that Trey was an affirmative action hire. He didn't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. But Brock, in your eyes, you got to understand that Brock is a human being too. Brock has tendencies too. And I would like to see if Kyle is going to facilitate and nurture Brock, because we still don't get around this question. The quarterback still has to be nurtured. He's still young. Brock is still going to need the same things Trey needed. So we'll see.
Peter King was at camp yesterday, and or I guess it was maybe the last couple days. I forget. It might have been yesterday. Anyway, he then went on Pro Football Talk and their show, and he says, I will be surprised if the 49ers' number 2 quarterback is not Sam Darnold. He says, I think you can just see it. He's a little bit more confident, seems to be playing in that offense with a better state of readiness than Trey Lance. Then he goes on to say a lot of people are going to make judgments, and rightfully so, on the fact of how much was wasted if indeed Lance never works out in San Francisco, and that is indeed how it's looking like now. But I think this is one of those things that if you get caught up in this, if you're John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, you can't get caught up in this, because what good does it do you? Then he goes on to say, why is Trey Lance so far behind, he asks. Because he's played 1 season of football since he graduated from a mid-level high school in the state of Minnesota. So what do you expect? Well, what do you think, Coach? I mean, what did you think of Darnold last week? How would you evaluate what you saw from Darnold compared to Lance? And what do you think of Peter's comments that it's Darnold's job, the second job?
I think that his comments are secondhand. They're not his own. A lot of these national guys,
which makes it almost worse, right? Because I mean, somebody's told that makes him. I mean, somebody whispered to him, "Hey, man, it's Darnold's job. It's Darnold's job." Right?
And that's the thing about these national guys, is that they're lazy. They walk up to the room, they find their best name, and they say, "Tell me everything."
Right. That's exactly the way it goes down.
So even what they're getting told, they're hearing somebody else's context, they're hearing somebody else's information, and because they've had this relationship with this guy or gal for this many years, they just go ahead and parrot what they hear, right? We've been hearing that Sam Darnold was the shoe-in at 2 since, he stepped foot in the building, right? So, really, when it's almost kind of like when Kev's got to tell you, I'm a grown man, Dad, and it's like, hey, Kev, grown men don't say they grown men. They're just, you ain't got to say it, right? And my thing is national media is remarkably lazy. All right, they are unbelievably lazy. You would be surprised. I'm sure but I'm talking to fans. They get paid a king's ransom to sit on their pasty asses. They don't do anything. And what they do is they just play telephone. They have no talent. They have no context. They never put their flag in the ground. That's the reason why they made it as high as they did. Because they're Switzerland. They bother nobody, right? And hearing that Sam Darnold is the unquestioned 2, or that he's surprised that he won't be the 2 in August, is just carbon copy of what we've been hearing throughout all of summer. But the games need to be played, right? Camp still needs to happen. And I'm going to tell you this right now, even naming Sam, outright putting Sam at number 2, that just wouldn't be the best option for the Niners, because this is what happens when you put Trey at 3. When you put Trey at 3, you put a blemish on his career that cannot be taken away, right? Because now when Trey is 3, he's officially a bust, right?
I agree, and I think this distinction is very key. Continue. Please continue.
Yeah. When Trey is number 3, he's officially a bust. There's no team that will take in a quarterback who was number 3, and a coach or a GM or a president or an owner is going to hitch their wagon in a serious way to let that man lead the locker room. That's just not the way the NFL is ran. And I think the Niners understand that as well. I think they understand that for Trey, and I think they understand that for Brock. I mean, not for Brock, but for Sam as well. And
so what do you think's going to happen? Because my feeling on I totally agree with you. If they come out and say Sam Darnold's number 2 and Trey Lance is number 3, and I titled this, "Are the 49ers going to trade or cut Lance or Allen?" Because when they went and signed Darnold, it was pretty clear then, but now I think it's even more clear. Purdy's here, Darnold's here. What the guys that we don't know if they're going to be here or not is Trey Lance and Brandon Allen. They're not both going to be here. One's going to be here. One's not going to be here.
Well, let me tell you, I got a narrative for you. Go
ahead.
And this is a hot take. This is what's going to happen. When Trey
Wait a second. I'm going to write this down. I got a pen. Okay. This is what's going. When you said this is what's going to happen, I went to my trusty Sharpie.
Pull out the Sharpie.
Go ahead. What do you got? What's going to happen?
Trey Lance. If we're looking at this narrative, Trey Lance has to do bad today, right? So that'd be enough. That's 2 bad games. That means that whatever he does on the last game, unless he's Joe fucking Montana, it ain't happening, right? So that's
tonight's the night, is what you're saying.
Tonight's the night. This is it, right? Ain't shit you can do behind closed doors that they're gonna tell truthfully that you did. This is the last time that you get to, quote unquote, let the genie out of the bottle. This is it, right? If Trey doesn't get it done tonight, he's 3. All right? Because come hell or high water, they'll make Sam 2. Fuck it. This is what they'll say, though. This is how.
What will they do with? Oh, go ahead.
This is how they'll spin it. Trey Lance isn't suited to be a backup quarterback. They'll say
we owe it to him to play somewhere.
They'll take the high road. What they'll do is they'll say, "Oh no, we can't embarrass Trey by having him go through everything that he did, the way the locker room sees him, and then put him at number 3. There's no way that we can elevate him to number 1. No shit, motherfucker. There's no way he's going to be elevated to number 1 anywhere else. But they're going to say there's no way that he could be our number 1. And for everything that we spent on him, he deserves the right to go out and let's preserve him. He's not suited to be a backup quarterback. And to be honest, we don't even want Trey as our number 3, right? That's just too embarrassing for the kid. We wouldn't do that to him. We'll shit on him for a year, but when it finally comes to it, we don't want to do that to Trey. And then they'll move him for peanuts.
Oh,
right?
Really? Do you think that?
Because the low compensation will look like, this is what all the cucked 49ers fans will say. They really did. The Niners really did Trey a solid, man. I mean, look, they didn't even take anything for him. They were really just trying to get him in a good
They could have gotten more, but they sent him to place X.
They could have gotten more. Like, guys, we've been watching football all our lives. When is this stuff going to start hitting? When is this stuff going to... They're going to say, we moved him. We could have got so much more for him, but because of how we feel about Trey, and Trey is such a good guy and he deserves an opportunity in the league, we're going to take whatever we can with him, and then he can go out there and do what he needs to do because he's just not suited to be in that role on our team.
That's a risk. That's a serious risk. I hear what you're saying. I actually think that if they were going to move him, they're going to move him not for picks, but maybe for a player, because then at least they can look.
Lord knows they need a player.
Well, exactly, and they could look their fans in the eye and say, "Hey, man, we desperately needed an edge rusher, or we desperately needed a tackle. We desperately needed a whatever they're getting back in return." Mm-hmm. And this player can help us win the Super Bowl right now, and we're all in on winning the Super Bowl this year, and try to spin it that way. But it is interesting, and then it kind of, when we're talking about tonight's the night for Trey, I wonder if that's the case, because now I'm reading, this is Matt Mayoko on NBC Sports Bay Area. It says Sam Darnold will play the majority of the snaps in the game tonight against the Broncos. Kyle Shanahan made it clear that he was not ruling out Brock Purdy making a brief appearance as well at the start of the game. And then Shanahan went on the radio and said, we planned on Sam going in the first half. We just finished practice here. I'm going to talk to the trainers with the rest of our team and everything. I might get Brock in there for a little bit. Have not finalized that yet, but thinking about playing the ones for possibly a series a little in the first quarter. But whatever that is, if we don't, Sam will have the whole first half. And if those guys do open the game with Brock and some of the ones, it'll probably be much longer than a series or two. So there you go. He sounds like we're going to see Purdy in the first half, Darnold in the first half.
Trey until like maybe fourth.
I don't know. I mean, last Sunday, of course, Trey started under center. He played the entire first half. Darnold played most of the third quarter. Brandon Allen then came on. I don't know. We'll see. It sounds like if we're going to see Trey Lance tonight, it's going to be in the second half with the twos and the threes.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't expect to see him in the first half. I'd be surprised if we saw him in the first half. Trey may get we need to see all of the quarterbacks. Brandon Allen's not practicing, so I mean, you got to get.
Well, his wife had a baby, and I don't know. I think then he was just rusty. I think he was there at practice the other day. He just didn't take any. He was there and did the pre-drills. He just didn't take any team drills.
You know, if you probably get a fly on the wall, Brandon probably knows everything about the entire quarter because he's the floor, right? He probably knows everything.
And he was a backup quarterback to Joe Burrow when he came here to be the practice squad guy. Obviously, yeah. Brandon and his agent were told something to get him to come here. He had options. It's not like this guy's
Yeah, I agree, Larry. Even with Sam Darnold's exodus from Carolina, just how we acquired him, signing him on the first day of free agency, the extra money with the guarantees behind it, giving a third string quarterback a press conference. I mean, Jesus, how heavy-handed are you going to be? So even with how Sam got here, the floor for me is Brandon Allen, because Brandon Allen seems to be not doing much, but very comfortable being here. So there's something I feel as though that he's been told, at the end of the day, he's making the 53. You know what I'm saying? He'll be our third.
The way Lynch talked about his wife having a baby, it was like somebody in his immediate family was having a baby. So it sounded like, it didn't sound like, oh man, we're so happy for Brandon and his wife and this and that. 10 days from now, guys, we're going to cut him. It didn't sound like it, did it?
It didn't sound like that at all. You know what I'm saying? It sounded like this is just something that's happening in the family right now. And we're right. That's how we came on. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing about these guys. When they talk in the media, I don't think that they see themselves, right? How we see them. But Brandon I don't see any type of nervousness around Brandon. I don't see him pushing to play hard. I don't see him trying to fight to play reps. Brandon is just kind of here, which leads me to believe that he's our third string quarterback.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then people have asked the question, who do you want coming off the bench Papa was asking this the other day. If it's a late game situation and you can have your top two quarterbacks go down, who do you want coming off the bench in a pinch? Trey Lance or Brandon Allen? Well, obviously Trey Lance is the bigger talent, but the way he framed it was like, oh, well, it's a high pressure situation. You want the veteran Brandon Allen. So let me ask you this: what did you think of the various critics or the pundits this week regarding Trey? JT O'Sullivan kind of he went through the film and said, hey, look, he missed this window, he missed that window. Then there was the Michael Lombardi thing, which I'm going to share to the screen right now. Tell me what you
share, Larry. I heard
Trey
it.
Lance.
What's that?
You go down.
You don't need to share it. I heard it.
You heard it. Okay. So I wasn't sure if you heard that.
Yeah, I heard it.
What did you think of Lombardi's comments specifically? As candid as you can be.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, it was bothersome to a lot of people, but he said two things in there. He said the first thing he said is no chance that Trey Lance is going to be the backup. Like he almost like he had a source based on what they said, based on what I've seen and based on who I've talked to and what I've heard. He's not going to be the backup. So that was, to me, I mean, it's one thing to say he's not going to beat out Purdy, but I mean, when you're saying he's not going to be the backup, and he didn't say specified 2 versus 3, he just said he's not going to be the backup. So that was interesting. But then the thing that got the headlines and got my ear and many people's ear was Trey hasn't been a quarterback since his mama picked him out of the crib. And that to me was so weird and so over the line. Just say he's inexperienced, say he's not natural, whatever. But don't tell me, the best quarterback in football is Patrick Mahomes. He was sub 500, I believe, at Texas Tech. So was he born an NFL quarterback, or did he develop into an NFL quarterback? So, some of this stuff is a little bizarre, but what did you think of it?
It's par for the course. It's what you would expect. There's a soft white underbelly of football that is racist, closed-minded, flippant with their words, cowardly, bereft of thought. And there's a lot of guys in the NFL that were born on third pace and think they hit a triple. There's a lot of guys in the league like that. And it was quite rich to hear a failed NFL exec bury a kid the way he did online. One of the things about talking about
to me, it seemed personal too. It seemed very. It went from we're not clinically evaluating a quarterback. Now it almost sounded like we're personally, we're making a personal attack. And I know Lombardi would say no, oh my God, no, it would never be personal. It never should be personal, but it really sounded awful personal. You're injecting his mother into the situation. And trying to make it seem like he didn't have a chance to be an NFL quarterback from birth. I mean, that to me seemed when I saw that, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, it is personal, Larry. Let's just, you know what I mean? It is personal. It sounded personal because it is. And it doesn't have anything to do with Trey. It has everything to do with what is inside of him, what he feels. Right? Trey doesn't know this man. You know what I'm saying? Trey, he don't know Trey. What he did was he saw an opportunity to lash out and give his opinion on a lot of opinions where he's never had the opportunity to lash out and give his opinion. And he took the opportunity to speak in jest. And you know what I love? I love, just like now in this show, I love that every time one of these middle-aged white guys gets up here and says stuff that he has to stand flatly for as a man, there's always some dorky black kid or some feeble, weak black kid or black man that's his co-host or his little do boy That's like, oh, well, yeah. Trey Lance, maybe Trey Lance, I don't even know if he's going to make the 53. What they do during the game, Larry, during the preseason game? They had the nice woman, the anchor, they had Mooch, and then they trotted out Mike Robinson's black ass. I don't even want to see him anymore. Trey Lance, that ain't it. That ain't it. We get on ESPN. We get a panel full of black guys and Joy Taylor. What Shady say? He don't even deserve to be in the league. That's enough. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't take any of these clowns seriously, right? They're on the national stage, and quite frankly, they're paid a lot of money to push narratives. Nobody up there is saying what they really think. And when Mike gets behind his bully pulpit and he says the things he says as a grown man, he's got to stand on that stuff. Nobody's ever going to forget that, right? And what it does, honestly, is it just gives a small crack into the view of how nasty the NFL can really be, and how they talk about these kids. So it was distasteful. It was racist. It was wrong, and nothing's going to happen about it.
To me, crossed the line. I can't say what it was other than it was odd. It seemed personal, and it seemed like we weren't really talking about football.
We weren't talking about football.
Seemed like we were talking about something else. But and it wasn't like JT O'Sullivan took out the film and said, here's Dwelly sandwiched in a zone between two defenders and he missed the window. That's a freaking evaluation. Whether you like it or don't like it, that's a football evaluation.
That's football. You can't argue football. That
right. And to me, I think what I see with Trey Lance is I see the same thing I've always seen. A great prospect who's super raw and needs time. And people are saying he needs to play right now. If he plays right now, I don't think he's going to play particularly well. But you know what? He's going to get it because he's smart enough, he's athletic enough, he cares enough. It's just a matter of time. The question is the time running out? The sense of it that I'm hearing this week, forget Lombardi because Lombardi's looking for clicks.
Right, I didn't even want to hear a clip.
Yeah, exactly. And I was only going to play it if you hadn't heard it because I wanted to make sure you had heard it.
Mm-hmm.
But the sense of it is that Trey's time to be a 49er is running out. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, I do. But at the same time, the 49ers don't know what the fuck they're doing. If Brock gets hurt and they elevate Trey, they elevate Sam, they're going to need Trey if he's still in the building, right? I'm not letting them off the hook. They didn't mean that. Brock Purdy wasn't on purpose, okay? Brock Purdy saved their asses. That's just what it is. And if you let them tell it, they're going to elevate Sam to 2. Brandon Allen is fixed in at 3 because I feel like, and that's the smart play. You don't put a player with as little reps and as little development as Trey. You don't put him at 3. He's not going to get any reps. He's not going to see anything in practice. That's essentially going to be a guy that you're going to need to kind of be ready to play immediately. That is a Brandon Allen role, right? So for me, I do think that his days are numbered here. I think that I'm more focused on him going to a good spot.
If you could place him somewhere, let's just say you were his agent, and let's say then you're his agent, you call John Lynch. John says, hey, we're going with Brandon Allen as number 3, and we're moving off of Trey, and we will take whatever compensation we can get. Where do you want to go? We love Trey. We want him to succeed. We don't think it can be here. There's no discussion on that point. We're going forward, but we will hand deliver him to whatever spot you guys want to be in. You're his agent. What do you say to John? Other than, hey man, I think you guys have made a huge colossal mistake.
No.
Trey's going to come back and bite you in the butt. But where would you want him hand delivered? Like, what is the best spot that he could go next? And I've got an idea, but I want to hear yours first.
Atlanta.
Tell me why. To compete with Desmond Ridder, they have Drake London, they have Arthur Smith, they have Kyle Pitts, they have a strong running game. They just drafted Bijan. It's going to be a run-heavy scheme. They got a really good offensive coach.
They got a lot of money. They ate all of that They ate all of that Matt Ryan and Julio money off their dead cap. They're poised in a really good division in the NFC South. He's going to get a lot of primetime games. He's going to be in a black city that has no problem with the quarterback of color, and they don't have any history of situations like we did. So ain't nobody going to run scared about trying to elevate him. I think it would be good for him. I think he'd play around a young offense, but not an established offense, right? He's going to play around some guys that have been playing a while, but not so entrenched like our guys where they think they run the show because they make a lot of money. So I think Trey will be actually going to a team that's on that they're trajecting up, and they have the time to create for him. And Atlanta has seen something. They can ingest the black quarterback. They took in Mike Vick. So I would think Atlanta would be a good spot for him, and he could take his time. And with the history of that division, nobody wins it 2 times in a year. Almost like the last guy always wins the first season every year. Wins the division every year. So it would be a small place in the league where Trey could go and still have a good market in Atlanta, still be supported, and they're not going to be tripping if they win games and possibly miss the playoffs or eke in. He would really get a chance to sit down. Outside of that, I would probably say Minnesota with Tennessee as the last third.
Those are all good. Minnesota, of course, would be his hometown. So, and they don't have an answer post Cousins for sure. I was going to go. It's funny you said Tennessee. I was going to go Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I threw out earlier this year an idea of trading him there for Malik Willis and something else. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Rand Carthon's in the beginning of his regime there. It looks like, for all intents and purposes, Tannehill's on his way out. Yeah. Levis has looked really, really raw, and they're a team at the beginning of a rebuild. And you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Treylon Burks, you got some decent, you got a Okonkwo, the receiver from Maryland, you got some nice receivers there. You got Derrick Henry, a heavy duty run game, pretty good offensive line. Tennessee, I think, would be a great spot.
And I like Vrabel too. Vrabel's a man. He's a real man. You're right. He'll stick his flag in the ground. He won't play all of this smoke and mirrors bullshit. And going to somebody I like that, because going with somebody like Mike Vrabel, he loves the game too much to play politics. We would know if Trey's the deal or not. We would know.
I would say the other place that I think would be a great spot would be the Jets, because in my mind, what Trey needs to do is he just needs to keep going, but he's a huge talent, but he needs to watch a little bit more. He needs to play, but if you know the way it works in the NFL, if you play quarterback and you struggle, you sometimes don't get another shot. Or if you play quarterback and you get hurt, then you lose confidence. We've seen Rick Meyer and others. If you went to the Jets, at least Rodgers is going to play this year. But then you look what you got there. You've got Robert Saleh. You've got Garrett Wilson, who I think is the greatest young receiver in the game today. I think Garrett Wilson's going to be one of the best, and you got a killer defense and no pressure to play, and you can sit and learn from the master. I mean, if I was Trey Lance and I want to play, right? But if I can't play, and even in Tennessee, it's like, would he play? Would he not play? Maybe not right away. But man, if you could go sit under Rodgers for a year and learn from the master all the nuances that he knows, and have that killer defense and Robert Saleh. I know it's New York, but I think the Jets would be a great spot for Trey, because immediately, nobody's expecting to play next week. And like we saw the way he looked last week, he looked nervous, he looked fidgety. He's got some nuances of the game, accuracy, timing, touch that he needs to work through. I think if he sat behind Rodgers for a year, would take off the pressure, get him to a new location, new lease on life, and with the best young receiver in pro football. To me, Titans or Jets make a lot of sense.
I would stay far away from the Jets. And there's for many reasons, but really the number one reason, in my opinion, is when Trey goes, I want Trey to go somewhere where he's got the opportunity to get on the field right away or compete to get on the field right away. Like that, and that's the question that I wanted to ask you. With what you've seen from Trey thus far, would you say that the last thing he needs to do is just play? Like, this is literally, when I watch him play, I don't see anything about Trey that says he does not need to be on the field. He's not a pro athlete. For me, he needs to keep playing. So that's the only thing. Trey sitting another year, hang it up.
Yeah.
Hang it up.
I mean, I see that argument. I see that argument, but, the old scout one time told me, hey, every quarterback comes into the league and they're immediately entered into a race. And the race is, can you learn what to do before your body gets broken and you're like physically diminished. And this guy brought up guys from yesteryear, Burt Jones and guys in your neck of the woods. You remember Burt Jones with the Colts way back. Guys Rick Meyer was the offensive rookie of the year his first year with Seattle. Then 3 years in a row, he was the most sacked quarterback in the league. And then he floated around a number of spots, including the 49ers, and just couldn't get it rolling because his confidence was so, I mean, Jim Everett came out of Purdue. He was good. Suddenly he was being sacked by air because he just, the sacks do take a toll and guys lose their confidence. So to me, it's like you got to play, but you got to play well. And if you don't play well, you lose your confidence or you get your body broken. And then now you're physically and mentally broken. Now you got to break bad habits and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, I know what you're saying. I basically agree. He needs to play, but he needs to play somewhere where he's supported and he needs to play well and not be sacked a ton. And, that's.
I mean, I'd like to see Trey outside of this offense too. I'm over it. It's
what offense would you like to see him in?
I just out of this. Like, I don't like our passing game. I'd like to see Trey in a traditional West Coast. It's almost like how many times we're going to try to get an opera singer to rap. It ain't what he do. It's not what he does. I understand that in the guise of Niner land, hitting the short intermediate throws is something that every quarterback here must do. And that's true, right? But we don't own the license on football. Like, we don't. And I would like Trey to get with another offensive practitioner that can actually can yield his skill set on command. Like,
Atlanta might be good then. Atlanta might be good because Arthur Smith, I think, is a really good coach.
Right. It's like, what's the best thing? You want a short order cook or you want a personal chef? Like, if somebody is supposed to be a chef and they're a personal chef, that means I can tell you whatever I need and you can make it. You can go out and make that meal, right? But if you sit here talking about you the best chef in the world and all you know how to do is make hamburgers and fries, but they're the best hamburgers and fries in the world and everybody loves them and they're the easiest hamburgers and fries to eat in the world, that's good, but it's still fast food. You know what I'm saying? So I'd like to see Trey. I'd like to see Trey in another offense because optically, I feel like this offense could accentuate what he does from the pocket better, but he's just not in that position right now, right? And before, you know how quarterbacks are. We look at these guys like they're fucking fighter pilots, right? The position is way overblown, but you know how it is optically for a QB. It once you're seen failing, and once the mark is out on you, the narrative is out on you as a failed quarterback, just like I know, that's career suicide. And that's why I was a little bothered with all of the comments about Trey playing his first game within a year is because for the novice listener, it just seems like a really bad review. But for people who know the temperament of what can be said, buzzwords, what cannot be said in the league about certain players, like you and I know, that was a little bit of career suicide. That was a little bit of a hack job, saying that about Trey on air. And for you to be able to say that type of stuff on air, that means that you were given the green light. So he needs to get out of here because it's not about him playing anymore. It's about his reputation.
Let's do a couple things here. I want to hit a couple topics, then we're going to hit some chats, and then one of our callers would love to talk to you. One of our favorites, Digital Drew, the Mortal Kombat czar from Chicago, will be joining us here momentarily. All right, let's go into. There was a great article by my good friend Rohan, I was on his deal yesterday, his YouTube show, and he's got 5 players whose stock is dropping after the Week 1 preseason. He's got Cameron Latou, Javon Kinlaw, Isaiah Oliver, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. What do you think? Any of those guys? You want to talk about Oliver? That sounds like the nickel spot's wide open. You want to talk about Latou? He can't catch the ball. Do you want to talk about Kinlaw? He didn't look too good last week. Well, give me your thoughts on any of those guys.
Let me go. I got my notes from Las Vegas sitting right in front of me. Ironically enough, all 4 had bad games. It's kind of funny. Latou is a serviceable blocker, but I don't know what type of blocker he is because I haven't seen him block once. And even when he was blocking in the Vegas game, he was anemic. He played with good technique, had good leverage, but for you to be a subpar pass catcher, we really got to see it in the run game. I didn't see that from Cameron Latou. Then when he got the ball, I think that, and I hate to say this because I'm a Bama boy. I love Bama, but when you eat high off the hog and you play with really good players at all times, sometimes you can get a little bit lazy thinking that I've played the best version of ball that I've seen already. I can kind of get away with things. And with Cam, I hate to say this about him, but I gotta call it straight. He's playing with a lack of urgency. He's playing a little too cool for school. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and
you know what I see, Coach, and tell me what you see on this one because you've been around it and you're a real football guy. I just see Kyle use the tight end, all these shifts, all these motions, tons to remember, tons to memorize. And this kid was playing on this enormously talented Bama team where they won whether he was good or not. And so he lacks a little urgency. And now combine that with his head is spinning. And I just think when you have so many things and you cannot think football or work football, you have to play football. You have to play free. His mind is just all bogged down with all these, I got to shift here. I got to do this. I got to turn with my right shoulder. He just looks like somebody who's thinking. And I think his hands are probably way better than what we've seen. But right now he just is all in his thoughts and it's screwing him up.
Well, if you're saying that he's having paralysis by analysis, I can see that. There's
just a lot. There's a lot going on for a rookie tight end in this offense.
I mean, that could be plausible. I don't want to challenge his makeup, saying that he doesn't want to play hard. But let's just put it like this: when he's thinking on the field, it's noticeable. When he's thinking through his assignment, when he's thinking through whether or not he should get leverage on the guy or getting to the second level. He's thinking a lot. And yeah, I'll be fair. He is thinking a lot, but it's paralysis by analysis. He's moving a lot slower than I expected him to. And he's slow to begin with. So he's got to do better. And I don't want to say this about him, but there could be a possibility that he's fighting to stay on this team. So I hope he makes the 53 because Braden Willis looks good. So we'll see.
Yeah, Braden Willis does look good. And this is the situation I think if I'm Lynch, I'm in. I think I'm inventing some injury here. You know what? He's got a contusion of the knee, and we got to put him on IR because I don't want to cut him at that. Yeah, sit him down, get him away from the action, Get him in the playbook. Get him some reps. Get him.
Protect him. Because once he gets in the media, they're going to eat him alive.
Right. And you don't want to cut him.
Once his confidence is shot, then the locker room's not going to respect him, and it's over. You know the deal.
What about Kinlaw? Where are you with Kinlaw?
Huh?
Where are you with Javon Kinlaw? Kinlaw, is having a good camp coach. He bull rushes the center back into the quarterback's lap day after day in the one-on-ones. But his job is to stay home, anchor against the run, and control the A-gap. And he's spinning like a pass rusher, taking himself out of the A-gap. They're not good against the run. He doesn't get to the passer. And when I watch him, if I was just going to sum it up, I would say I watch a lot of it. I don't see him get a lot done. I mean, we could analyze it more seriously and get into all kinds of pad level and leverage and, assignments and all this. But at the end of the day, he doesn't get a lot done. I don't see him rush the quarterback. I don't see him come off blocks. I don't see him plug the A-gap. I don't see him make tons of plays against the run. I see him, he's strong, but I don't see him getting a lot done. What do you see with Kinlaw?
I mean, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. He looks amazing. But I will get in the weeds because I don't even think it's like schematically. I mean, there was one play where it looked like he completely ran out of the gap, but I think that was on Coach Wilkes. Like there was a stunt and he got stunted out of his gap. But Javon gets stalemated a lot on the line of scrimmage. He really doesn't have a second move, which kind of confuses me at this stage of his career. He does play with effort, but he gets muddied a lot. A lot of linemen or defenders that go against Javon, they seem to be able to absorb him. And that's because Javon doesn't play with consistent pad levels, the right pad level. And because of that, I feel like there was a part of Javon's career where he found a lot of success being stronger and bigger than everybody. And I feel like in today's league, or anytime in today's league, technique wins the trenches, right? And a lot of times Javon is getting moved like furniture, not even like physically, but just by good technique. He's just getting moved off his spot. He's not holding gaps. The silver lining for Javon is that I don't see any ill effects from his knee.
You're right. That's a good point. He's not wearing a sleeve. He's not clutching it. He's taking all the reps. He seems to be moving well. It doesn't seem like he's got knee issues.
And because of that, I'm giving Javon grace because Javon has an arthritic knee that has been giving him problems since his entire pro career. He fought through it to try to get the knee stronger. Then he had a setback. Then he fought through it to get his body smaller. He fought through that. And now he's finally gotten to a point where the knee's not an issue. He's got a new body, new strength, new speed. I could care less about him winning one-on-ones in our practice because I don't know how good our offensive line is yet. So I need to see our trenches in the raw on both sides of the ball. But what I will say is that when you deal with an athlete in the trenches and they make such drastic changes, like a Javon Kinlaw, like a Drake Jackson, you do have to give them a little bit grace to kind of just find their legs. With Javon working against real live action, he could be feeling his way through trying to understand his new body. That's fair. That's not an excuse. That happens. So as far as production is concerned, that ain't it. And he needs to do better. But I believe that the depth of what he brings us depth, and he gives us a good body, and he's a part of the strongest unit, supposedly, of our entire team. So I think he's safe.
Isaiah Oliver, does he make it or not?
No, I don't think he should.
Yeah, he looked bad last week. He looked bad last week.
Jesus Christ, man. He looked bad. And you know what else? Like, the number one thing that, like, boils me is, like, entitlement on the field. It's like, motherfucker, if you got beat, you got beat. Don't be fucking throwing your hands up. You got beat. You know what I'm saying?
You talking about on the Keelan Cole shallow crosser?
Yeah. You got beat.
I just
bruh.
didn't like how he played the whole thing from a trail position, and then generally when you see a guy's beating you and then the ball's going to him, guys have a tendency to speed up. He didn't. He just kind of
He let it happen.
He just
like
trailed the whole thing.
the entitlement. That's what I mean. It's like
They got other guys.
For what it's worth, this is what frustrates me about Isaiah Oliver is that it's not even like he's an upgrade. Like, you're not better than Jimmy Ward.
No way. No way.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Jimmy Ward was one of the best players on the team.
Bruh, if anything, your ass need to be coming in here humbled. Like, man, I have to be playing outside of myself because of the guy that held this spot down before me. And not on top of it, the guy that held the spot down before you that was better than you wasn't even your position. He was a safety. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm not sold on Isaiah Oliver. This is kind of the first time I'm kind of rolling my eyes at Coach Wilkes, to be honest with you. But he didn't give me much. And to be honest,
maybe he's hurt because he looked 2 steps slow.
Larry, he ain't.
And they got other guys. Coach. They can go Demo inside. They can go Quantrez inside. They could go Jameson inside. They all can play faster.
And then
than
we
Oliver,
still haven't seen what Luter can give us. Luter's not even back yet.
Yeah, Luter's real too. Real.
So for me, man, I got no cut cards when it comes to guys that come in here and fill in positions over guys that weren't better than them, and that were better than them, and then they make the spot worse. It's like we already resorted to the fact that you was going to be a downgrade anyway. Nobody expected you to be a downgrade. Like, come on.
Seriously. I mean, you're a cover. You can't hit like Jimmy Ward, so you sure as hell better be able to cover as well or better, and to see him break down in coverage. And knowing that you got Quantrez there, you got Sammy Womack, you got Ambry playing well, you got Demo who can slide inside, you got Jameson, they got options. AJ Parker's playing well.
That's what worries me about our team coming into week 1, is that there was a time where, like, competitive guys, like, if you were a bubble guy, you wasn't fucking making it on our roster. We were too talented. The fact that this guy hasn't been phased out yet it worries me. You know what I'm saying? No,
I mean, well, tonight's a big night for Isaiah Oliver for sure.
Yeah.
Let's hit the supers, and then Digital Drew's in the green room, and he's destroying our food back there. I see billowing smoke under the door. I mean, come on, seriously. I mean, Digital Drew. We're sending
have some class, Drew.
We're sending the bill to Mortal Kombat. I mean, he is just wrecking the spread, punching holes in the wall.
We're keeping the deposit.
I mean, Kev is going to have to go clean up the green room when this show's over, and that's just not good. All right, let's hit the supers here. Nelson Vieira. Hey, Nelson. He says, hey, Larry and Coach, good show, guys. Hope to see Brock today for a series of 2. Also, I hope Trey does good today. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you. Thank you there, Nelson. Maynard Keenan says, why aren't they starting Trey? Seems stupid not to give him more reps. It makes them look stupid for drafting and giving up on him. Incompetent front office. It is a bad look, man. Mike Monahan, does QB3 run the scout team? Good, could be good for Trey. I mean, at this point, I think the coach said it best. If you put him as the number 3 quarterback, you're putting a stain on him that instantly devalues him, not just here, but everywhere. Zachary Kelway says Trey's going to get cut. Nobody wants him. Trey may be getting cut, but there's plenty of teams that would take him.
There's plenty of teams that want Trey.
Yeah. Wolf Life Wild says, I think Sam's being propped up so we can trade him. Him being Sam.
No, he was saying he was going juxtaposed to us. He was saying that he thinks that Sam Darnold is being propped up so we can trade Sam.
Right. And Green Bay, there's talk going into camp that Green Bay wanted to trade for him, so maybe he's onto something. Double B Studio says that's why Draymond got the new media trend going because of what you said earlier about media. Yeah. Plebe Montagne says Gordon, Good Brothers, and corporate Urkels. Coach, you're running circles around all them Urkels. Okay, I'm not sure what plebs was going there. Sean says, will Kyle be fired if he's wrong about this quarterback situation? No. Even with the wins, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Harbaugh, people seem to think he can't because of W's. I think he should be if he is. Can't get the quarterback right. Look, they've been to three of the last four.
To that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Eddie D would have got rid of Kyle years ago. Eddie D was about winning. Eddie D would have canned Kyle's ass. And you know it, Larry. Eddie D would have canned Kyle.
Here's the thing. Walsh started 2-14 a couple years. The Niners had a 3-6 year after they won the Super Bowl. There was times when there was tension between Walsh and Eddie. But why did Eddie stick with Walsh? The same reason Jed's sticking with Kyle. Because Eddie pre-Walsh had a parade of donkeys as head coaches before Monty Clark. If you look it up, between Monty Clark to when Bill Walsh took over, Monty Clark was 76. Go look at 77, 78, 79, in that range. Pre-Walsh, you're talking about guys who didn't get a lot done. I mean, and were not great coaches. So that was fresh in Eddie's mind, as was Joe Thomas. Fresh in Jed's mind is Tom Sula and Chip Kelly and paying off multiple coaching staffs. So 3 out of the last 4 NFC title games, Kyle ain't going anywhere. That's for sure. Flav says, if you could trade...
hold on, let me ask you this.
Yes.
All right, it's in my belief. It's under my belief that Jed is here. Jed is the general manager of the Niners, not the owner, in my belief. I think that Dr. York runs the show. And I think that Jed is with the Niners to keep the lights on and go to the playoffs and make them profitable. If the Niners miss the playoffs, I think that conversation would go beyond Jed.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question. But all I'm saying is, whether it be Jed, I'm grouping Jed and his mother and Dr. York all together. They're like the ownership, right? And all I'm saying is that Eddie saw pre-Walsh how bad it could be, and then he was willing to suffer through some tough years with Walsh. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl in year 3. It wasn't too many tough years. Right. But I think the same thing can be said for Jed and the current regime. They saw Tom Sula. They saw Chip Kelly. They've paid off. They've spent $25 million paying off 2 entire coaching staffs. Really 3 once Harbaugh's were gone. So they've spent a lot of money. Now they're looking at Kyle. They've been in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games. This quarterback thing is not going to get him fired. It would have to, as you said, they'd have to miss the playoffs, and then I think the clock would still start to tick. Even then, I think Kyle's got at least, I would say Kyle's got, being totally honest, even if they didn't make the playoffs again under his reign, I would say he still has 3 years.
From this season on, so 2 after this?
So I would say if he missed the playoffs this year and then missed the playoffs next year, he would have 1 more year. And if he missed the playoffs again, I think he would be out. I think that's how long his rope is. If you're asking me what I think, that's what I think. Because they've been in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games. I'm not saying that he's the greatest coach. I'm saying that look what came before him. Look at what they've done here. Look at their roster. And they've been competitive. They haven't climbed to the top,
let me ask you
but they have climbed close.
So let me ask you this, Larry. They have come close. They've got a great roster. So are we gonna ride Kyle until our roster completely goes bad, and then when we get rid of Kyle, be right where we left off with an overpaid old roster, and then we're pretty much open to any young head coach that wants to get a shot? Or
I don't know. I'll go ahead. Or what?
Or why don't we be forward thinkers? If he doesn't get it done with Brock, are we really going to give him another QB, or are we going to ride out with Brock?
Well, first of all, Brock's 23, and I think he's pretty good. So we'll see where it goes. I think if Trey can't play, Darnold can't play, Allen can't play, Brock can't play, and they're flat-footed, there's going to be heat, heat on the people in charge.
So if Brock goes to the playoffs, let's say we go to the playoffs with Brock this year, right? And we lose first round, but we went to the playoffs, right? Is Brock our starter next year? Unquestioned.
Well, I mean, it really kind of depends on how he plays. I mean, give you an example,
He was
Coach.
unquestioned this year with 7 games.
Well,
So
because look what he did. Look what he did.
Huh?
Coach, he had 13 touchdowns and 4 picks in 5 games. Extrapolate that.
We're agreeing with each other. I said
No, I'm not arguing. I'm saying if you extrapolate what he did last year into this year, that equates to about 40 touchdowns and 10 to 12 picks. Right. Those are MVP kind of numbers. So if he plays on that level, he's coming back for sure, right?
I ain't asked you all that though. I asked you because ain't nobody talking about Brock's numbers as the reason why he's the man. Everybody's talking about the wins, right? This is the Niners.
Okay,
you're not doing that.
They go to the playoffs and they lose in the playoffs.
Trey. What was Trey? 12 for whatever with 100-something yards and 110. Nobody gave a shit.
Yesterday, you mean? I mean, last week he was 10 of 15, for 112 or something like that.
We were looking at how he played, okay? So, if you make it to the playoffs with Brock this year, right? We lose first round. No matter what, is Brock the unquestioned starter in your eyes? Regardless of play.
Yes. Because here's the bottom line on the thing. There's all kinds of ways. The right answer is I need more info, right? Because what happens if they get to the playoffs, Coach, and they lose 45-42? And so? Steve Wilkes' defense is terrible, and Brock throws 5 touchdowns.
He's the unquestioned starter.
Yeah. But I mean, so it's not a simple. It can't just be about the win or loss. It has to be about how he plays.
Little narratives you do, Larry. Come on.
I'm just saying.
Look.
There's got to be some context. That's all I'm saying.
All right, then let me give you mine.
All right.
If you can tell me if in your scenario Brock can go 45-42, the defense shits the bed, lets 45 out the back door, but Brock throws 5 touchdowns. Cool.
And he's the guy.
Let's say we win. We lose 45-42. Brock throws 3 picks and goes 12 for 27.
There'll be somebody else here who would challenge him. That would be my answer. If he doesn't play well, because the standards are high, he'll still be here, but there'll be somebody of significance competing with him. Wouldn't you agree?
No. I asked you if you agree. I'm asking you what you think. So
yeah, I think he would be back with a competitor.
If Brock threw 3 picks, went 12 for 27, we lost 45-42. Fuck it. In the NFC Championship game. Let's take him all the way there.
He's back.
All right. And unquestioned.
You
know what you're doing right now.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think he's back. I think you're asking. Okay, you asking me what I would do, or you asking me what I think they would do?
What you would do.
I believe in him, as I've stated many times. So I would have him back. But you know what? If he doesn't play well, or if he shows issues, I would have it be a competitive situation. I would have somebody else who I liked as well in the room, but he would still be back.
So even in your scenario, Brock could still take us to the NFC Championship game, lose, and you would still have somebody in there to compete with him.
Yep. If he didn't play well.
So let me say this. But you don't see a problem with nobody competing with Brock now.
Well, I mean, the Niners would say that there are people competing with Brock, but I mean, they're giving him the starting job to start off with. But I mean, Coach, they've got 4 quarterbacks right now.
Even in your scenario, Brock plays a full season and you still have him competing for the job. Brock only played 7 games and he's not competing for the job at all. And you don't see any issue with that.
Well, I mean, I understand. Well, I
got that ass.
Well, no. Well, you're saying that he's not competing for the job. I'm saying he won a competition for the job.
What competition?
They've been competing this entire offseason, and what they're competing against what he did last year. Now he's in there on the field doing it. Now all 4 of them are on the field competing. That's what training camp has been all summer. It's been some days Trey's been good, some days Sam's been good, some days Brock's been good. It's a competition. But in Shanahan's mind, what Brock did in the regular season in the playoffs last year makes him the leader. And But let's be totally honest about this. If Brock had come out and he didn't look good this summer, he probably would not be the starting quarterback. But he does look pretty good this summer, and the other guys look good but not great, and so he's going to get the first crack. But I do think it's competition.
I don't think there's been a competition for the starting quarterback job of the San Francisco 49ers, and I think there's a lot of people who would agree with me. He was given the job. He had great 7 games.
He took it. I would push back and say he took it.
Well, wait a minute. He took it when he played because he kept getting to play. That's when he took it.
But he also took it this summer. He's also taken it this summer.
Hold on. He was hurt this summer.
But he's played the entire camp.
All right. So what you're trying to tell me is that there was an open competition, but he did so well this summer that he's closed the competition. So there was a competition for QB1.
Well, first of all, there was a leader in the clubhouse going into the competition. It was him. And then he outplayed these guys in camp. And don't make any mistake about it. He has outplayed these guys in camp. There's no doubt in my mind. He's the only quarterback who's going down the field at all in camp. Everybody else is captain check down. Sam is, Brandon is, Trey is. They're not throwing the ball down the field.
How many reps with the first? How many reps does Brock have with the ones? Do you know? Ballpark. Don't even got to be specific.
I don't. As far as percentage of reps, I don't know. A lot. The majority.
From start to finish. And Brock's been missing days. And he still, and he still has exponentially more reps with the ones than.
Right.
It's not a competition, Larry. He's number 1. He didn't compete for the job.
All right. Well, I disagree. First of all, I disagree.
Disagree. I'm not here to argue with you. That's
I hear you.
Stance.
I just disagree. I think he was the leader, and I think he outplayed these guys this summer. But we're going to find out.
I agree with him being the leader. I agree with him. Earning his position of being the leader in the clubhouse, whatever the fuck that means. But what you're not going to tell me is that he competed for a number 1 job this summer. That didn't happen. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion.
I hear you.
It's not a fact. It's my opinion.
I got you. We got this one from Flav who says, if Offer was a 5th during the draft, no one is offering anything if he looks bad again today. What's his cost at a minimum the next 2 years? Who wants a quarterback with issues and no experience for that price?
What does Flav mean by issues?
Well, he's saying that Trey was not productive and he didn't play particularly well, and he doesn't have a lot of experience, and his price tag's going up. But
you can't eat a turkey 30 minutes in the oven.
Right.
So what are we doing?
Yeah. No, I think I think that's a fair statement. I think, and you know what? Let's see what it looks like after the first, few series when a guy hasn't played live action since September. I'd much rather evaluate him going into this game than the first game. No real football evaluators look at that first game. First game, guys are shaking off rust. Guys haven't played in forever. It's just the second game, third game. That's why there is a preseason. Flav says,
I
don't like the first game.
He's got to stand on this performance. Because
no, I'm not alleviating it. I'm just saying.
Well, I would have been on cloud 9. So I mean.
No, I know. I'm not apologizing for him. I'm just saying that don't put too much credence into the first preseason game. Flav says if you could trade Trey, the cap money saved would have been enough to pick up CMC last year. You could add someone midseason to help the team. Trey doesn't help this team win games this year. I hear what he's saying.
I agree with that.
Glass half full guy. Does Latu even make this team? Hard for me to see it with all of his drops. Not unless he gets a rolling.
The bigger question is that if Latu doesn't make this team, are we going to start looking at Kyle burning 3rd-round picks?
Well, how about Moody too? Those guys are both in the 3rd round. Neither played well. It's a big night for Moody. Alex Lopez says, what if Robert Saleh or Mike McDaniel win the Super Bowl first? Is he on the hot seat?
No.
That would make the seat hotter.
Sean McVay won a title.
What's that?
Sean McVay won.
Yeah. Flav says no one in their right mind is hiring Kyle now unless he has at least back-to-back losing or firing Kyle now unless he has back-to-back losing years. Jed wants to win, but ultimately he wants money. Shanahan is a cash cow with the name and the attention, etc.
That's why it's all about, and I agree with that. It's not about Kyle winning Super Bowls. It's about him keeping that expensive ass building of a franchise and stadium open. So if Kyle misses the playoffs, man, that's
That
when
would
stuff
cost
will start
money.
shaping up.
Batman lives 777. Bosa not part of the Cabo crew. He ain't getting paid. Yeah. Now Bosa's going to get paid. My prediction is it gets done in the next 72 hours. Zachary Kelway says the roster gets better every year. Kyle and Lynch are here. I can't believe Jed hasn't inked them for 10 years. Okay.
Right.
James Foster, coach. Brock has the upper hand regardless of how good he is because his average cap hit the next 3 years is $1 million. He's a borderline top 15 quarterback.
The money plays. I agree with that.
It's $840K this year.
Yeah.
Easy Tino says, haven't the 49ers cooked the quarterback position in the eyes of the public? Brock has to work or Kyle has to go. They can't draft another quarterback, not ever.
But that's what's great about that comment is you'll see the beauty of the relationship between, it's like Stockholm syndrome. Like we like you'll see so many people explain away why Kyle deserves another crack at this if Brock doesn't work. You'll see it.
I think I agree with this comment though, because I don't think they can draft another quarterback here. If all the quarterbacks fail, they've got Kirk Cousins next year, or that's it.
Larry, they
That's how I
drafted a
feel.
kid. They drafted a kid number 3 overall and spent 3 first-round picks on him. And he hasn't even played a half of a season in 3 years. And we're actively agreeing that not only is he not going to be on the team, but he's getting traded for another 3rd overall pick who has over 50 starts and over 50 interceptions. There is nothing that Kyle can't get away with. He will draft another quarterback, and we will all sit back and call him a genius for it.
Flav says Reed wasn't fired until he went 4-12, and it was clear he didn't get it done with the championship core he had. Same is the case with Kyle. Needs a ring by the time we need to rebuild again. He has some years still. Yeah, I mean, if they have to rebuild, before they get it done, there'll be a lot of criticism and the heat will be up. Zachary Kelway, been Brock's job since he waxed Brady last year in his first start. Okay. With the chant, we're cooking along. Digital Drew's in the green room, and he wanted to join the conversation. And Digital Drew,
Coach.
meet the coach. Coach meets Digital Drew. Digital's in Chicago.
Howdy.
Coach is on the East Coast. I'm here in the Bay, getting ready for preseason game number 3 tonight. Digital, welcome to the conversation, and say hello to the coach.
Howdy, Coach. It is a pleasure to actually make your acquaintance and work some stuff out. On
the pleasure is all mine, Digital Drew. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, wonderful. I got to hook you up with some MK codes, by the way. So I'll get
Digital Drew. When he says MK, he's talking Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
That game off his shoulder there is Mortal Kombat, right? Is that Mortal Kombat in the background there?
Yeah, it is.
There we go.
Yeah, it is, and on the shirt and everything else. Yeah, half my wardrobe is Mortal Kombat stuff, so won't be a shock to see me in that stuff. So where you want to jump in?
Well, no, go ahead. I mean, we've been talking for an hour and 23, and I wanted to bring you in a little earlier, but we got so engrossed in what we were getting into, I didn't want to, bring you into to a back and forth where you may want to go back and this and that. So, anything you want to go with the coach, he's here for you, or me.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to rehash a ton of stuff with Trey. I do want to hit on a couple of elements there. One of the things I noticed in a game film when I was watching him was he was getting tracked down from behind by defensive ends that had no business catching him. And there was also a handoff in the that was a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2. And it was very clear that was a quarterback option. And the read on that play is the defensive end. And the defensive end was the guy that actually played for us last year. they crashed. He crashed down
Jordan
hard.
Willis. Yep.
Jordan Willis.
He crashed down hard on the line, and Trey still handed the ball off. It was very clear at that moment, like, okay, the running back is going to get crushed, and Trey still handed the ball off. And seeing how he was getting tracked down and his decision not to take the ball and get out of the pocket on that play specifically got me thinking, I know that we have talked about Purdy and his arm and whether he lost whether he lost miles per hour or velocity. But I don't think we talked much, if at all, about the potential that Trey has lost a step. And as we all know, the hardest thing for a professional athlete to come back from these injuries is not the physical, but it is the mental. And I think if you layer, all of these variables on top of it, it's very possible that Trey's not 100%, at least mentally, when it comes to that ankle. And just seeing those two things, and I wonder how much of that is playing into everything that's going on with Trey. If you look at all the confounding variables that's going on right now, Coach, you called out in a stream, and I think earlier in this one, that you didn't see a regression in his mechanics. But if you add that as a factor of something that Trey has to deal with, at game speed, it is a complicating factor for him. And I think if you add all these up and all of the pressure that he's under to perform, I think you're going to see a performance like he did last week, especially if he's not confident on that foot. He's trying to think about the mechanics, because at game speed is the truth. And you could see the deficiencies that Trey has when, the ball is snapped. I do think he's thinking about it. I did see a few throws where that non-spiral duck that he's, infamous for throwing did come back out. So his mechanics may have been there, but it didn't show up in the end result. So I think a lot of that going on there may be playing into some of the performance. Big picture, I don't think they cut Lance. I don't think they cut Lance at all. To do so would mean that front office and Kyle has to admit defeat and a mistake.
Well, it's also beyond that. There's a huge cap hit involved as well. To cut him, if you trade him, there's less of a cap hit. If you cut him, then you're taking an enormous cap hit. To me, I don't see. To me, that makes no sense. I can't see the argument for cutting him at all.
Yeah, I don't think it's there. I think the Niners got incredibly lucky last year making it all the way to QB3 and finding a gem like Purdy. I think that you're not – if you have to get to the point of going to QB3 this year, it's going to be a washed season. You're not going to see the same degree of success. So at that point, let's say that Sam's the number 2. Yeah, keep Trey, make him number 3. If you get down to him, now it's time to say, hey, can we actually push Trey forward? Can we showcase him or try to get the most out of him? Then I think you end up in a scenario where Trey can cook, and I think that's a win at that point. To say, like, I think it's a win for Trey at that point. To say if the season gets to the point that all the quarterbacks go down and you're starting him, okay, wash your hands of the season, move on. Let's see what the kid really has. Let's bring him along. Maybe you end up next year with a repeat where it's like, hey, Trey looked really good. Brock went down with another injury. Hey, it's a big question mark,
Well, it's glad to have you here. Let's just go back to last year. So you're not mentioning Sam, Drew. And you're not mentioning Sam because really the trajectory of what happened to us last year we didn't have a traditional downfall to our third quarterback, right? What we really had is we had a guy that we put in at 1. We created an entire offense for him. We put him out at 1, but we had our starting quarterback as our number 2. That is unique, right? And I feel like even with us being Niners fans, we love when things work for us, but it also is very healthy to understand when things work for us and understand that it's not the norm. This is not usually how it goes. So us injecting a starter in the number 2 role in the third game of the season. It's not even as if, I mean, Jimmy essentially played the season, started the season, right? That's a far cry from Brock going down and then inserting Sam Darnold, right? I don't think Sam Darnold is Jimmy G. I don't, right? Not even close. And by the time you get to number 3, I think that it's a bit unrealistic to think that this team would ever concede a season. You fight the whole way going through. There's never a time where you just say the season is over. Not with our caliber and not with the cachet that we have and not with what we're supposed to be starting the season with, right? For us to give up a season where we're essentially supposed to be shooting for a Super Bowl, that's implications on Kyle, which he will not have, in my opinion. So for me, traditionally, yes, on a team, by the time you get to 3, and if that 3 was a rookie, you would make lemons out of lemonade. Let's play him. Let's see what he can do. Let's go ahead and give him the time that he always wanted. But this team doesn't believe that they need to keep their quarterback room healthy. This team believes that their quarterback room just failed them at the wrong time, that they can still get it done, right? I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where Kyle looks at our quarterback room and concedes the season, especially with how he set up the quarterback room this offseason, with bringing in Brandon Allen, a career number 2, right? Bringing in Sam Darnold, first day of free agency with the requisite money, and having Trey Lance compete for number 2, and still having Brandon Allen in the building with little reps, and he's barely practicing. So I see what you're saying, Drew. And on another franchise, I would agree. But I feel like we are married to looking like we're trying to win a Super Bowl at all times. Optically, we have to be going for a Super Bowl. And I think just to touch on Trey's mechanics, Trey's mechanics could regress. They could, because Trey's not getting enough reps. But for what I saw, I was pleased with the fact that he sustained his mechanics throughout the entire game. As far as defensive ends barreling down on Trey Lance, I think that's a matter of character and process of the player. Trey seems to be very cautious with the ball, and he does not like turning the ball over. And he bakes progressions where he'll bake on a player and sometimes see him and then literally not pull on him and then go to his check down, as if to say, I'm waiting for the perfect time if I like it. If I don't like it, I know I have something in my back pocket. And optically, what it looks like is a wasted play. You see what I'm saying?
Coach, absolutely. To jump on that, I noted that in the watching the game back as well. Of when Trey comes up to the line, his head is not on a swivel. He just looks at the center, comes up, head goes straight down. That's a bad sign. But when he looks up after the ball is snapped, he is staring down the receiver. You can kind of see some looks, but when he's getting ready to pull the trigger, you know exactly where he's going. That might have worked, in college. That will not work in the NFL, and that is a critical
to take
mistake.
A step further, Drew. To take it a step further, college is long gone, right? I kind of get tired of people talking about Trey in college, but then at the same time talking about he's been in the league for 3 years. College is long gone. What you're seeing is habits that Trey is picking up with the 49ers. All right. So what those habits that you're seeing that you see, that's not NDSU. All right. He's been here for 3 years. What it's showing is what's happening in practice. So another thing that also kind of came across to me in the Las Vegas game is that we don't have the trenches that we think we do in practice. And these quarterbacks have way more time than they do in real games.
Well, I mean, the 49ers offensive line, their number one offensive line played 0 snaps in the game against the Raiders. And the backup offensive line, from watching it all summer, they're going to struggle. They only really need 3 backups, and they're going to struggle to find 3 backups. It's going to be Feliciano, Manning, and a tackle, I think, from outside. So their backup line got their you-know-whats handed to them, and that impacted things last week for everybody.
One little note about that, and I'm not trying to excuse or write off the performance of the offensive line, because just look at the film, your eyes don't lie. They were getting pushed all over the place. When I went back and watched the film, and I think J. O'Sullivan called this out too, when Trey stepped back in a 3-step drop, he had a read that was open. When they call that play in the huddle, mentally, these offensive linemen say, okay, I have to hold this for a maximum of 2.5, maximum 2.5 seconds. And they're going to hold, they're going to do their best to do it. The reads were open and he didn't pull the trigger. He cocked it back down and said, okay, let me look out here. That is throwing your offensive line under the bus. And that's at any level. That's a high school, college, NFL. If you call a 3-step drop for a quick hit and you don't pull the trigger, you have just sent your offensive line up a creek without a paddle.
There's no question. I mean, he hasn't played a lot. His clock is a little slow right now. His timing is a little off. I mean, the guy can throw the hell out of the football. His issue, Sam's issue is turnovers. Brock's issue is arm strength. Trey's issue is speed of when he sees where he wants to go and being decisive and throwing on time with touch. That's his issue. So, I mean, he hasn't played. What we're talking about are the first 3 plays of the game. First play, he held it too long. Third play, he didn't let it go. But, that's why, I mean, Shanahan praised the touchdown that would have been an interception because that was a play where Trey saw it and let it rip. He still was a tick late, and that's why Duke Shelley got his hand on the ball. But Kyle's praising that because that was an example of what he wants to see more of. He wants to see Trey let it rip. He wants to see Trey throw the 50-50 balls and let his receivers battle for them. He doesn't want him to hold the ball and survey the field. You don't have a lot of time. And we see it in practice. I mean, and here's the bottom line on this thing. Coach, you know this from watching film. We really penalize the heirs of commission. So if you fumble, we all see it. If you throw a pick, we all see it. But if you miss a window, only the people who watch the film really see it. So people get crazy about the picks and crazy about fumbles. But in reality, the quarterback position, you got to play on time. And it's not like other jobs where you can just get there early. You can't get there early, and you can't be late. The ball's got to come out with accuracy on time. That's the deal. But I would say to everybody who is critiquing him, let's have context. Context is the guy hasn't played live football since September of last year. I think you got to give him. I would say if you said to me, how many series does a guy need to shake off rust? I'd say, I don't know, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Well, guess what? He played 3 series. They went 3 and out, and then it looked better. So I'm eager to see what it looks like the rest of this preseason. To me, what it looks like going forward is more indicative of what it's going to look like than the first 3 series. That's all I'd say. Go ahead, Coach. You want to jump in?
Yeah. So if your job mattered on this, like if your money mattered on this, there's a lot of people who would be holding their tongues on what they see from Trey Lance because you haven't seen a lot. He hasn't played enough. All right. I just don't. I mean, Larry, you played the game, bro.
There's no doubt he hasn't played enough.
You have to play. Okay. And
Uh-oh.
There we go.
My bad.
You're back.
Coach.
You're back. Blame Hannibal.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So he has to play. I feel like when it's almost like going on a trip out of overseas. If you're staying for 10 days, the first couple of days you're going to walk around. You're going to see the sights, right? You may go to a restaurant or 2, go to your hotel, relax, may even have a couple of lazy days. But if you're going to Europe for 3 days, all right, you're jam-packing everything. You ain't got no time to chill. You don't have no time to get acclimated to feel your way through. And from what I see is we're looking at Trey off of very small sample sizes, but we're not really tracking progression. One of the things that I notice about when people scout or talk about Trey or evaluate Trey,
Because progression doesn't matter in the NFL.
Hold on, let me finish.
Hold on.
So one thing that I never hear about Trey is I always hear these one-off pot shot analysis, but nobody ever can tie anything together because there's not enough meat on the bone. You can't talk about him responding from week to week or things that you saw him struggle with that he progressed through because he just not has had that time. What you're doing is you're looking at a game and evaluating good versus bad. And without context, that's very dangerous because you don't know what you're looking at. All you're looking at is what you think you know. Like, case in point. So you brought up the zone read play or mobility with Trey having defensive ends barreling down on him and maybe something's wrong with his eyes. I saw that play, right? But I also saw muddy pockets with Trey having people falling around that ankle, keeping his eyes downfield, him escaping the pocket with defenders barreling down on him and still getting the ball out, not leaving his eyes and watching to stay out of harm's way. But I saw that from a progression of the game. I didn't see that one thing, mark it, and then leave the rest of what I saw because I know that I'm watching one game that this kid has played in an entire year. So watching somebody without context, and the thing, Larry can tell you this, Drew. Anybody can tell you what you see. That's not a scout's job. A scout's job is not to relay what you've seen. There's other people in the room that know football. A scout's job is to forecast what's going to be. A scout's job is to say what they see now and chart where that can be later. That's what a scout's job is. That's what evaluation is. So if you just want to grade them, you can grade them. I'm okay with the grades, but context matters as well.
Yeah,
so
that's well said. It's not just about what you did. It's about where are you in the progression and where's it going and does it make sense? Like, does it make sense that a player is raw? Well, it does if the player hasn't played.
Yeah.
So the one play in the game last week, and I wanted to bring this one play up. It was play number 7. Okay, so this is still this is the third drive. This is the first play of the third drive. 1st and 10, Niners on their own 14. Trey's under center. Niners in 21 personnel. 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 2 wideouts. Running back and fullback in the eye. They go play action. Lance looks left, and he's got Dwelly on a short out route to the boundary in the flat. And he did something that he has no elbow and badly overthrows him. But when I went back and looked at it again, what he also missed was he had Ronnie Bell on the seam route. And Ronnie Bell had good separation on the seam route. So he checked it down to the flat, which is fine. But then he kind of rushed the throw and did what he hasn't done all summer. He did what he did last summer, which was he dipped the elbow and the ball sailed, and Dwelly couldn't even get a finger on it. He's been staying on top of that. So that was the one example I saw of his mechanics kind of breaking down.
He actually had 2 of those, Larry, not one. He had 2 of those.
That was the one that was so noticeable to me because last year he airmailed the short out to the left continuously in practice, and that ball would sometimes land on the second field. And we haven't seen that. In this camp, he's putting that thing on the hands. Right. But he dipped the elbow, the ball sailed, Dwelly doesn't get a finger on it. Now it's 2nd and 10 from the 14. That was a breakdown in mechanics. That to me was but then when I looked at it, I saw, well, you know what? He actually has Ronnie Bell open on the seam. And he didn't go to him or even really give him a solid look. He went from the to the check down quickly, and he wasn't under a ton of pressure on this particular play. You know, it once again though, we're squeezing it the same way he's squeezing it. We're squeezing it because you can't put too much in any singular play. All I would say is it wasn't perfect, but to me, I got something really good out of last week. This is what I got out of last week. I got a guy who's rusty. That makes sense to me. He should be rusty. But I also got a guy who looked like really nervous at the beginning of the game. Now, people look at that as bad. I look at that as football's important to him. He wants to be good. I think Steve Young had the most compelling commentary and review of the week, where he said Trey's in a spot now where he knows that every little movement, every play is a referendum on his selection. And he's playing tight, and he's not playing loose. He's playing, because he's trying to justify the selection on every pick. That actually is a good thing to me, even though it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because it tells us how important this whole thing is to him, which means to me, as coach is saying, don't just see what you see what then tells you what you can project. To me, what I project is a quarterback who's going to get there. Why? Because he's big enough, strong enough, smart enough, and it means a ton to him. So I look at that as a real positive. But a lot of people are like, no, he's not ready to play. I agree.
He's not ready. He's not ready.
He's not ready.
That's the thing that I feel. I'm sorry, Drew. And that's the thing that I feel like is the disconnect with our fan base, is that it's okay for a guy not to be right for us. It's okay. But I don't subscribe to Trey Lance not working.
What does
here.
that mean?
He's a bad quarterback. Nah. Like, I feel like when I watch the kid play, I can forecast and see that there is upside. He needs a new environment. He needs to get the hell out of here. This offense ain't for him.
Hold on, Coach. The Shanahan offense is being proliferated throughout the entire NFL. If you can't run it here, you have significantly less options in the NFL to do it. Because everybody is picking up this scheme and they're running with it. No, hold on. Let me jump back for a second.
The running game is being taken across the league. Ain't nobody taking it.
No, you've been passing it. The whole scheme. The whole scheme is taking it.
No, they're not.
The whole scheme. Absolutely.
So hold on. So Miami's doing through the air what we're doing through the air?
No.
Well, I mean, they have weapons.
The Rams are doing through the air what we're doing through the air?
Well, I don't know. Are they? You tell me, Coach.
All right. The name of this scheme is what, Larry? What's the name of our scheme?
I mean, are you talking about the West Coast offense?
No. Kyle Shanahan's scheme. What's the name of his scheme?
I don't know.
I'll help you out, gentlemen. The name of his scheme is the outside zone. That's the name of
you're talking about the run game. You're talking about the stretch. Stretch zone.
That's the scheme. It's the outside zone. The whole scheme is the outside zone. There's passes off of it and everything. They call it the outside zone. All right? They are taking the running game from this offense. Ain't nobody taking this passing game. I'm sorry, y'all. Even JT O'Sullivan says it nicely. It's not for me. But this passing game is archaic.
What scheme do you want him to play in, Coach? What do you think? What's an ideal scheme for him?
Offense scheme. I would like to see him in West Coast. This franchise was built on the West Coast, but we don't run it.
Well, the strict West Coast, you're talking about 3, 5, 7-step drops, timing routes, flooding zones, 3 guys in a zone, being very accurate in a short zone. I mean, those are the tenets of the West Coast scheme.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is I don't know that Trey can't run their scheme. I just think that ultimately it comes down to he needs work on his clock, his touch, his timing, and it all comes with reps. And that's really, at the end of the day, what does he really need? He needs reps, more mental reps, more physical reps, more time on the field.
Yeah.
I don't think
the Niners have clearly decided that he's not going to get that here.
I don't think he gets those reps here.
I agree.
No, I don't think he gets the reps here. He has to go somewhere else. But to kind of back up a little bit, I hear so many people talk about ceiling, potential, all that. Hey, none of that shit matters. No one cares. I'm more aligned with Lil Cone on this stuff. None of it matters. Can you do it on the field? How did he get here? We're here to win games. How did he get here,
Drew? Drew, he only played 1 year of college football. If none of that
do you know
matters,
how many
GMs
here, Drew? Are in the unemployment line because they bet on potential?
Drew, how did he get here if none of that matters?
Because it matters in the draft. If you look at what Trey's value is right now, what the Niners have been offered in trades, that tells you how much the NFL really values potential outside of the draft. They'll bet on a kid
the
in the
draft is
They don't
all
bet on
about
kid after they're here.
The draft is all about potential. And unfortunately, the 49ers were a ready-to-win team that didn't take Trey in their first year. They took Trey after they'd already been to the Super Bowl, and they were firmly inside their Super Bowl window. They drafted a very raw quarterback who needs development and time on the field in the midst of their Super Bowl run, and then we're never committed time. No, it shouldn't have been a surprise. It should not have been a surprise. I mean, it really shouldn't have, right? He played 1 year of high school, 1 year since high school. So that, and I think somebody has to own that evaluation.
Yeah, I would put this more on the front office than anybody else for Trey's
Why
issues.
not Kyle?
You should have seen that. Why? I don't have a bone to pick with Kyle. It seems like
I just said, why not Kyle? That's what I asked you.
Sure, blame Kyle. I don't care.
I'm
not married to Kyle either. Why not Kyle?
Not Kyle? That's what I asked you.
Because we don't know who in that room was making that call. We don't know for sure.
Who's the final word and say of the San Francisco 49ers regarding football matters?
Likely Jed York. And then it goes to Lynch.
No, it's Kyle Shanahan.
It's Kyle.
We don't know.
It's Kyle.
No, it's Kyle and Lynch are tied together. They want to be tied together. They are tied together. There is no, hey, it wasn't this guy, it was this guy. They all have to take responsibility. They took a raw quarterback that needs time inside their Super Bowl window, and then never really had an opportunity because they never wanted to give away any seasons to his development. I guess last year was the season they were willing to give away, but even so, I don't really believe that. They weren't going to give away all last season. They were just going to give away a month or two to give him the reps early. Once he got hurt, it was over. I mean, Peter King was predicting last year in September that the Lance experiment would last like 6-7 weeks only. So he always was going to have some short leash. He wasn't just going to have the full year. But that's the challenge. That's why you don't want to draft raw players in the middle of your Super Bowl window and just expect that they're going to hit the ground running. And then Brock Purdy showed up and has saved their bacon to a large degree because he is ready to play and is ready to play now.
And we expect him to hit the ground running.
And he did.
He did.
All right.
Yeah, he did hit the ground running. He played incredibly.
Let
me hit a couple of these real quick, and then we'll continue. Zachary Kelway says the idea of firing Kyle is absolutely ludicrous. Fish and Chips says I think me and the coach agree on Little Shanny. DS Review says the idea of firing Kyle isn't crazy because he truly can't develop quarterbacks. It's his ultimate downfall. So now we have people who diametrically opposing views. Holland Tracy says he's a second-year undefeated QB1. Of course, he's back talking about Purdy. Zachary Kelway says Kyle is a quarterback whisperer. He made RG3, Matt Schaub, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Ryan look good. Matt Schaub led the NFL in passing, for Christ's sake. Terradome, good to see Terradome. He says Trey did aight for basically a sophomore in college, which snap-wise, that's what he is since his freshman year in college. Zachary Kelway jumps in with Trey just doesn't have the processing speed or of an NFL quarterback. He's not going to happen here or anywhere in the NFL. Not sure he will be successful in Canada. Wow, somebody actually suggested yesterday he plays in Canada. Stephen Draper says that wide stance Waddle quarterback drill is terrible, not a natural motion. Trey struggled with it in the game. He's talking about a camp drill. Easy Tino says...
I think he was talking about the juxtaposition between the drill and that throw to Dwelly. I think that's what he was trying to say.
Right, and we've shown people with camp video, with the ropes out there, and it's called the gauntlet, basically. Sometimes they go small gauntlet, sometimes they go with the padded gauntlet, but either way, it's the quarterback gauntlet moving, so you're basically it's raising your feet off the ground as you move in the pocket. Easy Tino says Trey broke an ankle, but he's being criticized for his speed. Has Drew broken ankle? I promise you it's going to slow you down. Trey's not Superman.
What the fuck does that matter?
He's just
come on now.
You're good, bro.
Easy. Easy Tina. Bang Bang 415 says all this intensity got me ready to run through a wall. At least we get some 49er football tonight.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
I'm ready for the game tonight.
Cool.
Something
I compared Trey, and the Niners too is what occurred with the Warriors and Wiseman. I think they mirror each other almost identically. You have a win now roster, and then you go and get a project, a raw prospect, and the timeline doesn't really match up. And maybe that's just what we're looking at with Trey. He may be good, but his timeline does not match up for the Niners. Maybe that's all it is. And I do put that on the front office, and I've said that before. I'll say it again. If you have a win now roster, do not take a project. Because there's no place for him here, and it's unfair to Trey to do that.
Well, it's like you're upsetting the forces of draft nature. I mean, the best teams get the last picks, and the worst teams get the first picks, and it all works out. Why? Because the worst teams have time to develop the raw players that go at the top of the draft. The best teams are looking for players that can help them win right now. The Warriors took a raw player. They never should have had that pick. The Niners traded up. They, if things were right, they never would have had a top 3 pick. So what happened? The Warriors had to get off of Wiseman for GP2. And now, there's people that are debating whether Wiseman's going to be good at all. And then there's people that believe that Wiseman's going to be great for the next 15 years and the Warriors are going to regret it. But at the end of the day, what did the Warriors do? They bought high and sold low. They bought a Ferrari for $200,000 and sold it 6 months later for $50,000. I mean, so it's bad. And it's like the same thing is happening here. If the 49ers move off of Trey Lance in a trade, or God forbid they released him, they will have bought the Lamborghini and sold it a year later for less than half of its value. And so there's no hiding that that's a mistake. It's like you can't buy a house for $1 million in 2022 and sell it for $200,000 in 2023 and call yourself a smart real estate investor. You made a mistake. The Warriors made a mistake with Wiseman, and the Niners either made a mistake with Trey, and I'm not even really believing that because I believe Trey is going to get there. But there's this little thing called the salary cap. And unlike in the past where you could just have a guy on your team for any number of years, now there's the cap. He's making $9 million this year. He's going to make whatever, 15 next year. And then you got to decide, do you want a quarterback who's not playing to make more than your first and second quarterback and have like the third or fourth highest cap figure on your team? And that's where this debate gets complicated because the Niners do have a loaded core and they got a lot of guys that they want to pay in 2024. But they also committed to Trey. And so it's like, are they going to see this thing through to completion? And that's going to cost them on the cap? Or are they going to try to get away from that money and move him down the road and make up some excuse like, well, he needs to play or he needs reps and we can't give it to him here? But it does seem like if you listen to Peter King and all these other national people, it does seem like they're all having the same narrative, and I don't know where they're getting it because they're only here for a day, so they roll into town, they roll out of town, they all have the same narrative. Brock's 1, Darnold's 2, Trey's either 3 or not on the team. And it's like, where's that coming from? Well, it's coming from somebody, so we'll see because we're getting close. We're 10 days away from the cutdown day. This will be decided, I think, by the cutdown day. What do you guys predict we're going to see here in the next 10 days?
I think Trey's going to – I'm sorry, Drew. Did you want to go?
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I do think that everything is really contingent. I think for us, we're giving the Niners way too much credit. Like as far as like thinking they have their plans together. They really are building the plane in the air, right? And just leaving themselves as many options as possible to be able to do what they need to do, in my opinion. So I believe that they're coming up on another milestone, which is their second preseason game. And they're going to shape and mold what they want to do with their team based off of the data that they're given with this game. I really do believe it's day by day because I believe that there are a couple of things in the quarterback situation that have taken the Niners for a loop. I don't think they expected Trey to get his mechanics together after he got his ankle hurt. I don't think they expected him to come in looking improved. I don't think, based off of his performances over camp last year, where your reports, Larry, were very poignant and accurate on Trey struggling to make throws downfield, Trey having accuracy issues, the ball being all over the place. But what were we hearing from the brass? He looks great. Trey threw a 35-yard bomb to so-and-so last training camp. He looked amazing. Bullshit. He was struggling then, right? So what I see now is if Trey was really what they say he was, they would have been got rid of him. But I think he'd be dead by now if he didn't get his shit together. He's literally showing them why he can't be cut, traded, or waived day by day. And what they're looking for is they're looking for enough data for the yay or the nay to make their situation happen, or to contemporaneously make a decision based on Brock's health and what Sam is doing. So I'm not giving them credit as if they just got it all like figured out. I think that it's a fluid situation.
I think they pretty much know at this point. I genuinely think they know at this point. I think Purdy, number one, Darnold is the number two, and Trey will be the number three. They're going in. I think they're going into camp there, unless some team gets desperate and offers them way above market value for Trey. I don't think he goes anywhere. I think there is some calculation going on in a sense of, do we want the distraction from the beginning of the season to be about how the Niners cut Trey or traded him for, a pack of Twinkies and some light bulbs? Or, do they want to have him on the roster, kind of keep him back there and just focus on the season? I think there is a PR analysis going on. And I've said it for a long time. I think the Niners value relevancy and clicks and being mentioned in the social media universe. I think that's definitely high on the list for Jed York. He wants to remain relevant. And has there ever been a greater offseason for the Niners in that regard than what
we're the tip of the spear for sports content creation. It doesn't get any better than us.
But the Niners are one of the Super Bowl favorites. They are relevant. Right. It doesn't matter what quarterback's on the team. They're relevant.
Oh, Larry, come on. You always the organization.
They're relevant.
Fine.
They're relevant.
Jesus, Larry.
Yeah, they're relevant.
They're relevant.
Come on.
It's okay, Larry.
Situation. A backup quarterback situation leading the headlines. Come on.
Well, that's one way to look at it. I look at it a totally different way. It's like if you have a quarterback that you've got a huge portion of your fan population sitting there every week and going, well, Brock did throw an interception here. Are you going to get Trey in? Are you going to get Sam in? And this thing, I don't think that to me could be is equal distraction. If you move on from him, there'll be a lot of conjecture. There'll be a lot of talk. But to me, there's less of a distraction if you move him than if you keep him. If you keep him and bury him on the depth chart, then you've got all these people going, well, you blew it.
Games. I'm sorry, Larry, but I agree with you 100%. If we lose games with Trey at number 3, the coach, that is a horrible look for the coaching staff.
And a constant drumbeat of what about this? What about this?
Trey?
What about Trey?
Yeah,
is there anything that Trey could do in practice that would elevate him to number 2? What
would be a lot.
What do you think? I mean, it would just be, to me, the only way this gets done and they have a clean break is if they wind up moving him, adding a piece in the move that brings them a piece to the puzzle that helps them win, and then they can say, hey, we're all in on winning. But you may have to group Trey with a player or a pick. I see players around the league, for example, Devin White in Tampa, Chase Young in Washington, who you could get probably right now for a third-round draft choice. You offer your third-round draft choice.
Go ahead and say his name.
Who's that?
Montez
Sweat. Would be my first choice. But I think you could get these guys. Why? Because Washington they paid Deron Payne, they paid Jonathan Allen, they can't pay their entire defensive line. They're going to let one of those guys walk at the end of the year. So if you offered a third-round draft choice for Montez Sweat or Chase Young, I think you might be able to get those guys.
Yeah.
I think what you may see is the 49ers offer a third-round draft choice and Trey Lance, and so we don't really know the value for a player like a Sweat or a Young or a Devin White, somebody who could help them, somebody who could help them win this year, or an offensive tackle, or just somebody that could help them win this year, and then they could say, hey, you know what? Or I just think that, or you may see a move for another player that also needs a fresh start. I mean, there are examples of players around the league that just need a fresh start. I just read an article this morning on Bleacher Report about different players that need a fresh start. Trey was at the top of that list. I think there were other guys on that list. I think Chase Young might have been on that list as well.
I mean,
should have been on that list.
There's players on our team that follow the same track as Trey. I mean, look at Javon. Drafted in the first round, came in, really couldn't get his feet under him, fought to get back on the field, and then what did we do? We went out and got Javon Hargraves, right?
Yeah.
And now, you know, Javon has to sit back and eat that because of lack of production, but that's the business, you know? So Trey he may need just new scenery.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's – go ahead, Digital.
Yeah, I thought Kinlaw should have been on that list as well, guys who need a fresh start. I think he just needs to get out of the team. I don't.
And there's other guys around the league. I'll give you another one. Mekhi Becton with the Jets. First round draft choice, enormous talent, enormous man, right? 6'7", 360. He probably needs a fresh start somewhere else.
He can't stay healthy though, Larry.
No, he can't stay healthy. But I mean that's been Kinlaw's issue too.
Yeah, beyond just the health issues, I mean, can we look at how he was getting just manhandled in the last game?
Oh,
he was getting shoved everywhere.
He's just not getting anything done. That's fish and chips is all responsibilities on one guy, Shanahan Jr. Period. All right, and he's not junior. Let's finish with this. Tonight we got the game, preseason game number 2. Give me, outside of the quarterbacks, give me somebody you guys want to watch tonight. Give me somebody that you're going to be honed in on in this game tonight that you're like, man, I'm eager to see this guy tonight. Who are you guys eager to see?
If he starts, Colton McKivitz. I want to see what Colton McKivitz, I want to see what the right side of the offensive line is. I'm really going to be looking at the entire offensive line. I want to see what our D-line looks like without Nick. It's time to start seeing what that looks like. I want to look at the depth of our trenches, and I want to see the backup running backs room. I want to see what we have there.
Digital, what are you looking for tonight?
The players I'm looking for, the first one that jumps to mind is Ty Davis Price. I want to see if he went back into camp and said, okay, I need to double down on my pass blocking. We've heard Shanahan talk about trust before when it comes to his running backs. I think number one in that has to be the pass blocking. That if you're not a good blocker, you're not going to see the field. If we look at Elijah Mitchell, he's a great pass blocker. Mason, that's where he faltered a little bit last year, was on his pass blocking. He was a little slow, let some guys squeeze through. Ty Davis Price looked horrible, and he didn't look like he wanted that contact. I want to see Ty Davis Price actually step into the hole, meet a linebacker or a defensive end coming off, and just straight up smash mouth football. I want to see that drive. Otherwise, I don't care how he runs the ball. He will not see the field, not in the Shanahan offense. The other guy, Jake Moody. I want to see this dude make one damn kick. Just give me a kick and let everybody and all the hate kind of subside. The second he makes one kick, it's like, okay, good.
We can live. We can not worry. He can go back to being a kicker.
Yeah, because right now, if Shanahan is the guy pulling the trigger on the third round draft picks, somebody needs to duct tape his ass in the corner during the draft when the third round hits. I'm tired of trotting out valuable picks, just watching them, absolutely poop the bed, as it were. The other guy I want to see is Isaiah Oliver. He's got to show me something. And I know he came over as a free agent along with Wilkes, and I know Wilkes might have a high opinion of him. But if he goes out there and exposes the defense, I think Wilkes takes the hit. I think it's almost less about Oliver at that point. I think Wilkes actually takes a hit in that locker room. They need to be very real with Isaiah Oliver. He might have the shortest leash of anybody on the defense at this point. So, and Jair Brown, something that he impressed me with last week is that, I'm going to say this, he actually reminded me a little bit of Jimmy Ward in the sense of how he was a ball hawk. He was around there. I don't know if he has the same flexibility in the defensive backfield that Jimmy Ward did, where he can line up a corner and actually shut a guy down. But I loved, how magnetic he was around the ball, and he was just always there. I want to see if that continues, or if he steps it up, or if he starts to command kind of like that safety coach on the field. Because I think Hufanga could use a guy like that, and I think Tayshaun Gibson gives us that right now. Gibson is 32, almost 33. So they're prepping Jair Brown to actually take over that role. Really interesting to see that. Obviously, the offensive line. I want to see if Poe got his stuff together. Because interesting, last year we were super high on Poe, and everybody was like, "Why didn't this guy make the team? I think he should make the team." Then he came out this year and just looked like a turnstile. I think, okay, scrub your head, get it right, jump on the offensive line. I want to see you maul some people. And if he could do that, I think if he has a bounce back, I'm less concerned about that offensive line. If these guys can just show we can progress week to week, and probably more than anybody, I want to see Shanahan call some Shanahan plays. I want to see him actually mimic what we may see in the regular season. I know he doesn't do this often, but I think it's unfair to train one way in practice, then get out there and call a high school offense or a high school defense, as it were. I think that's putting people in a bad position, because you train one way and you run these plays one way, and you get in the field, call something different. You're kind of setting these guys out to fail. You have to have some consistency from training camp into the game. So I want to see him call some real plays.
I'll tell you what I want to see. There's 3 guys on defense that I really want to see. One guy who's just been absolutely balling out on the back end is Taylor Hawkins. He just makes play after play after play in practice. He's hitting guys in the run game. He's covering guys in the pass game. I loved him at San Diego State. He was on the practice squad last year. This guy is really elevating. I'm eager to see him continue to play well. Quantrez Knight. I think Quantrez Knight can be the starting nickel for the Niners. I know they want to go Diamador Lenore, but I like Quantrez better because I think Quantrez is a hitter, and he'll hit against the run. He'll give you that physical presence in the nickel in the slot spot that Isaiah Oliver was signed to fill. So I'm looking for Quantrez. I'm looking for Hawkins on the back end. The guy though that I'm most eager to see tonight, I saw a rep this week from Robert Beal Jr. in practice that was unfreaking believable. He's pass rushing against Trent Williams. Trent Williams is probably the best left tackle in the game. Beal dips the shoulder, flattens to the quarterback, got parallel to the ground, sacked Purdy. Of course, the pass play went on because you can't actually sack the quarterback. Robert Beal has major talent. Major
he beat
talent.
Trent, didn't he?
He did. And if I want to see what he can do, because he is the kind of guy that if you put him opposite Bosa with that 4.48 speed burning the edge, man, that will stretch opposing offensive lines and put tons of pressure on them. So the rest of these guys have talent. Drake, I think, is going to get the first run, but man, opposite Bosa. But Beal has special traits, and I saw it in practice this week, and I want to see it in the game, man. This guy can go burn the edge, hunt quarterbacks, and make a major impact if he can stay healthy and he doesn't need a lot of counter moves. Just keep running the loop, man. Just keep burning the edge and get up the field, and I think he can do it. I mean, you're not asking a lot. Fish and Chip says he's junior Kyle because senior works in the building too, but it's Mike Shanahan and his son is Kyle. If it was Mike Shanahan, then he would be junior, because his name's Kyle. He goes by Kyle and not Junior, but I hear you, Fish and Chips. All right, Digital Drew, great stuff, man. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Appreciate you jumping in with me and the coach here.
Drew, it was great, man.
Yeah, it was great, man.
We'll link up, man.
Where
are you at? Are you Digital Drew on Twitter?
Digital Drew 312.
I got you. I'll hit you up, man.
Digital Drew's hanging in Chicago. Digital, great Saturday, man. Thanks for jumping in.
Cool.
There you go. The great Digital Drew, regular on the show.
I got one more for things that I'd like to see during the game.
What do you got?
I'd like to see our team look prepared. I'd like to see the coaching staff have these boys ready to play. I want to see some urgency. I want to see communication. I want to see playing to the echo of the whistle. I want to see Niners ball being played. Like, that was not, for whatever Trey, the O-line, the defense, Isaiah Oliver, whatever. I think the common denominator, the overarching feeling of what we watched last week was this doesn't look like us. This is not 49ers football. So I want to see our coaching staff have our boys ready to play.
Last thought before we jet. Where are you on Bosa? I mentioned Bosa before, and you kind of leaned forward like you wanted to get in, and I rolled right over you. What do you think about Bosa? I mean, it's the 19th of August. He's been holding out. They don't play they got this game this weekend. They got the Chargers next weekend. Then I believe they have a weekend free. Then the opener, right? Isn't the opener like the middle of September?
Yeah. All right. So
how do you feel about the holdout? And coach, how much time does he need in your mind, minimum? Or is he play the kind of position, and is he the kind of conditioned athlete that can roll out and just show up at Heinz Field and go hunt Kenny Pickett?
All right. Well, game day September 10th. What's today? The 19th?
Yeah, 19th. So we got basically 20 days, 3 weeks.
You need 3 weeks, man. You need at least 3 weeks to get. We're kind of coming up on it, honestly. If Nick is not here by Monday, we're officially dipping into like game day prep, week 1 prep, right? So if he's not here by Monday, I wouldn't panic for the whole week because that means we have another preseason to go. And if he's not here sometime next week, I think it's time for you guys to go ahead and start firing up your legal pads and asking some questions. It's time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. There's one ridiculous one in here. Look at this one. James Wilson. Feels like a Bosa trade coming, to be honest. What?
All right, so let me say, all right, so me and
what?
Grant,
I mean, what?
I will take you into the world. Right, so look, Grant is like, Grant's my friend. Everybody has that friend in school where he was your guy, but you just couldn't be in the same class with him. You're not going to get anything done. And me and Grant were like spitballing because.
Is he talking Bosa trades?
No.
All right.
But at first he put out a poll that said, and let me ask you this. Would you take a top 10 quarterback but we had to trade Nick Bosa, but you knew you were getting a top 10 quarterback. Would you take that trade?
I like Brock Purdy. I'm the guy who likes Brock Purdy. So, like, who is a top 10 quarterback?
That is not I asked, Larry.
I know, but I'm being evasive. I'm being evasive. So you're saying like Justin Herbert. If I could have Justin Herbert, would I trade him for Bosa? Is that what you're saying? Somebody like that?
Yeah.
The quarterback means everything in the NFL, but I don't. To me, the Niners are built off of their entire defense is predicated on putting heat on the opposing quarterback, and he is the best at doing that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess I would for the right top 10 quarterback, but I don't want to do that. I like Brock Purdy. Let me ask you this, Coach: if Brock Purdy, because you're open-minded. You have good thoughts about Brock, but you see limits on Brock.
Yeah.
If what we saw last year, now granted, nobody wins all the games, right? Nobody goes undefeated. Mm-hmm. But if what we saw last year is what Brock Purdy is,
hang it up.
Then where would he rank in the league?
Everybody on here
is he a top 10 guy?
Everybody on here knows that I am a Trey Lance advocate, right? I believe in the human being. I'm not going to say that I've seen enough with Trey, even with the good and the bad that he's done on the field, to be able to say whether or not he's the guy or a guy. But what Brock showed in 7 games, if Brock can replicate that and actually progress and to be a real quarterback, then we have our franchise quarterback. Full stop. We have our franchise quarterback. It ain't that. See, it's not hard for me to say it. If he comes through with the requisite success,
if he does what he's already done, he's a franchise quarterback.
Then you know what? Then he's actually the real deal. He's you could actually say it without being premature and shooting off the cuff. He would be the real deal for real if he did that, right? But that's what. So Brock has more than enough opportunities to do this. I think that it would be incredibly unfair to have a short leash with him because you didn't have a short leash with him in camp. He didn't compete for the job. So how the hell are you going to have a leash on him when you finally get him out there in real reps? You didn't even make him compete against his own teammates. So I think Brock should get in the game, do well. And if Brock can replicate the success that he had last year, what are we talking about Trey Lance for?
We asked Juwan Jennings after practice about Brock. You know what he said?
What?
He's a Brock star. Instead of rock star, he's a Brock star.
That's disgusting. That's That's disgusting. That is disgusting.
All right, couple last ones and we'll bail. Ricky Williams says, do you watch Hard Knocks?
Yeah.
So McCole Hardman thinks the Jets are going to face the Niners in the big game and beat the Niners 31-21.
Yeah.
He said with their easy schedule, it could be possible. What are your guys' thoughts? And this was the new episode. Yeah, they had this guy out there who did some incredible stuff. Did you see that magician or whatever?
Yeah. It's television.
Who's your Super Bowl pick?
My Super Bowl pick is the Chiefs and the Eagles.
The rematch.
Yeah.
That's the chalk of chalk right there.
Yeah. I got
I got to go Niners just because I can't invest this many hours into this without thinking. I got to put Niners.
I love your football mind. I really respect the fact that you're a family man first. That's the biggest thing I respect about you, right?
As I ignore my family right now. It's Saturday. I'm out here in the garage.
You're Niners tilted, Larry.
I'm Niners tilted.
Yeah.
But I could see Niners Jets, but I'm going Niners Chargers. I think the Chargers are coming.
Gonna put it together?
Yeah, I'm not every year the Chargers are kind of disappointing. But I just get the feeling that the Chargers, I love Telesco as a GM. They've now, look at those receivers, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, Mike Williams. You got the big quarterback. I think Gerald Everett's really, really underrated. And, they got Bosa on that front, and I love some of that secondary. Asante Samuel, Derwin James. These are some of the best players in the entire league. They got a free safety named JT Woods who's having a great camp. I don't know if they got enough pass rush outside of Khalil and Bosa, but we'll see. They got the edge rush. I don't know about their inside guys. But I like Chargers, Niners Chargers.
Hopefully they're like us, Larry. They got what we hope that we have. They're always in the fight they're always in the fight with Justin, man. They're always in the fight.
Guy's got a crazy arm.
Oh my God.
Crazy arm.
He's
How
once
good
in
was
a
he last
lifetime,
year?
man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coach, where are you going to be? Where are you watching the game?
At home, man. Watching it with the dog.
Well, hey, we're going to be on post game. I'll send you a link if you want to jump in and shout at us. We'd love to hear from you. If you can't do it, no sweat. But we'll be on tonight. What is it? A 5:00 game, 8:00 Pacific. It's going to be late. That game doesn't start till 8:00 Eastern, huh?
Yeah, it starts at shit. So if that game,
it's going to be late, man.
Finish up the game. Now I got a woman. I ain't playing that. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
All right, Coach. Hey, what do you got cooking the rest of the week?
Hey man, I'm gonna be on with you in the coming weeks. Me and Grant are gonna be on Thursday, and working on the channel. The channel will be up before week 1.
Call my man Len. He can hook you up. He can help you out. All right, man. Hey, have a great Saturday. Always great to talk to you. Thanks for being kind to Digital Drew. Yeah. And we'll talk to you next Saturday, man.
Hey Larry, it's always a pleasure. I love having you on my platform. And Kev.
You got to shout out Kev.
Kev! Thank you, Larry.
Have a good Saturday, man. Take care.
All right.
There you go. The coach in the house. Good stuff. All right. 2 last chats. Mitchell and Ness. According to Larry, Brock has won 5 Super Bowls already. Ah, yes. What can I say? And Smitty says, Purdy, baby. Purdy. Sounds like we may see the Brock Star tonight, according to Juwan Jennings. The Brock Star. Jesus, Larry, is Ricky Waters a Hall of Famer? No, but I love Ricky Waters, and we're going to try to get him on the show. Caesar says, great show. We got this one from Jesus. When will you get Dennis Brown on? Love to have Dennis on. He'd be fantastic. I know he's doing postgame on KMBR, so he's probably pretty busy, but love to get Dennis on. He's a good man. Good man. James Wilson says, thanks for the show, Larry. Thanks, James. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody. Let's thank our sponsors and bolt for the door. The new sponsor is Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. If you're driving around the Bay Area, somebody hits a pebble and hits your windshield, you got a crack, it suddenly gets bigger. Call Marin Auto Glass or go to marinautoglass.com. They'll pop out the old windshield, glaze in a new one, sweep away the glass. One-stop shop, very convenient, very cost-effective. My man Saeed runs Marin Auto Glass. They do a great job. When my windows need replacing and windshields, I only go to marinautoglass.com. New York-style sausage, you see them in the top corners of the screen. When I eat Italian sausage, I only eat New York-style Italian sausage. And, of course, the title sponsor of the Krueg Show, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Check out the brisket. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. Here's what they look like in Marin.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
All right, coming down the home stretch on the Krueg Show. Thanks to you, the coach. Thanks to Digital Drew for joining us. One thing I do want to say is if you go to our YouTube channel, I got this, I'm sharing the screen here with Twitter. Hella Frankie, he says, repping the Sports Larry K merch on game day. Look at that. He's got the Krueg Show stuff. So basically, if you go to the store on YouTube, you can check out all the merchandise we have, and you can support the channel that way. If you haven't already done it, please hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, that just helps more people find the shows. If you hit subscribe and hit that notification bell every time we go live, you'll get a little notification on your phone, and it's free to subscribe. Please do. And right now we are sitting at 21,700 subs. So if you're one of the nearly 500 people in the room still, hit like and subscribe. We appreciate every single one of our subscribers as we try to get this thing to 25,000 before week 1. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're trying. 21,700 today as we are trying to get towards 22,000. Maybe by the end of the week. We'll see. We've been picking up a lot. We've been picking up over 1,500 subs in the last 4 weeks alone. And we've had over 1 million, almost close to 1,000,001 of views of our videos and live streams in the last 28 days. This has been the most successful month in the history of the channel thus far. So I just wanted to thank all of you. Quincy Jacinto says, Krueger, appreciate you. We also have this one from Patrick. He says, third and Trey Lance for a salary dump. You have to give a pick so another team will take his salary and probably cut him. Oh, God, please say that's not the case. And James Wilson says, thank you for your hard work. Love your 49er content. Well, we appreciate it. It's a labor of love. All right, that is going to do it. Now, for the rest of the day, I'm going to head down to Santa Clara because we got a game today. I'll do some interviews probably on the field before the game. I'll do some interviews in the locker room after the game. We're going to go live with my son Kevin and Bay Area Baller tonight after the game. JD may be in the house as well. We've thrown an invite to him, so it should be good. Last Sunday or last preseason game, I think we had 1,800 people in the room for our post game and had over 20,000 views of the post game show, and we'll see if we can beat that tonight. And tonight, unlike last week, we will have locker room interviews with some of the players, and I'm looking forward to that. Should be a fantastic night in Santa Clara. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I've got the binoculars. I'll be sitting in the press box. If you see me walking through the parking lot, come over, say hello. Always love to hear from people who are fans of the channel, and appreciate every single one of you. So thanks to Coach, thanks to Digital Drew, thanks to all you guys. Check us out tonight after the game, and until then, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.